Welcome, everybody. Today is July 9th, and this is the Board of Commissioners' regular meeting, and we are called to order at 6 p.m. Will Vice Mayor please lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a suggestion, if you may. Tonight, that since it's Mr. Evans' last night, I'd like to him do the invocation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Members of the public, if you can join us together and close your eyes and bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be in this community, Lord. Thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed on each and every one of us, Lord, to call this place home, Lord. We ask that you continue to bless this community and provide a hedge of protection, Lord, as we come here to do your work and to do your bidding, Lord, and to understand that all the strength and courage and the decisions that we have to make, Lord, today and in future days come through you, Lord. We just ask that you continue to bless this community, bless the folks that reside in the community, bless those that serve and protect this community, oh Lord. We just ask for health and wisdom and discernment to touch this board and touch everyone in this chambers, Lord. We just ask for these continuous blessings in your Son's precious name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Black,
Present.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Here.
Commissioner Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Douther.
Present.
Next, we have approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, may I add something really quick? Could we please move up the discussion about the Little League donation up to the beginning of the agenda, maybe after proclamations? We have some of the members of the Madeira Beach Youth Baseball and Softball team here, and it looks like we have some of the players as well, so I'd like to get them out here as soon as possible, if that's okay. I don't want to have them sit till 11 o'clock at night.
Well, since it's a discussion, I would rather we take it off the agenda and talk about it at a workshop than move it up.
Well, they have the World Series is in a week, guys, like 10 days or something, so I don't think we can wait till the workshop in order to give them the donation to support them for this.
When is the actual series again?
Darren, when is it? Starts Monday.
Starts Monday. Any discussion?
Which one was it now again?
It's the very last item on the agenda. Under number 10B.
Oh, okay. So what we're going to do with this now?
And where do you want to move it?
Well, but whatever suits the commission. I mean, if we can move it right after proclamations before public comment, get these guys out of here. So, like I said. Is that good? Yeah. Okay with that?
Do we have a consensus for that? I need a consensus. I need a third person to say okay. Okay.
Madam Mayor, also, immediately following that presentation, if the board would allow for us to handle Resolution 2019-11, the Capital Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2019. We have some guests here that could present to the board, and we wanted to be able to handle that early on in the meeting, if the board would be so inclined to do so.
Well, that's first under new business. Where would you suggest we move it to?
I would say that maybe under Section 4.2 presentations.
All right. So we can do,
Okay, bring 9A down to that.
That is correct.
would it be better to do the Babe Ruth presentation or the signing discussion first?
I didn't hear what you said, Madam Mayor.
Which one would it be better to do first, the Babe Ruth or the signing?
The Babe Ruth first, and then the
Okay.
item 9A following, immediately following.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda?
I think the agenda that was printed with the packet that's in front of you is different than the one that's in the back table. The one that's in the back table has a 7A, which is the employment agreement interim city manager. So it changes the
They brought that around.
item 7,
They
the
brought that
letters of
around
the
to us.
items. You have it? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we have it.
Okay, good.
Oh, okay, I missed that one. Employment. All right. And also, there's a third proclamation, which is a proclamation for Mr. Evans under 4.1. So that would be C. Okay. I'm just mentioning that because it's not on this new one.
Mr. Evans is doing the proclamation.
All righty. Any other items for the workshop agenda? We have a motion to accept it as stated.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll second.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the proclamations. The first one is the Parks and Recreation Month for July 2019. Mr. Hatch, join me at the podium. Can I do this? Okay. Proclamation Parks and Recreation Month, July 2019. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout our country, including Madeira Beach. Whereas our parks and recreations are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of our citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and improve the mentally and emotional health of citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs, recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. Whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for our children and for adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, now therefore I, Maggie Black, Mayor of Madeira Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim 2019 July Park and Recreation Months. Thank you, Jay, for all your hard work that you do in the rec department. You're doing a great job. Okay, let me give you the proclamation. Thank you. The next proclamation is in honor of the USFSS. Let me start over again. It's in honor of the USFSP YMCA Civic Fellows Program. You will join me? Thank you. Good to see you, Judith. Whereas turn the page. In honor of the YMCA Civic Fellows Program. The City of Madeira Beach would like to honor and recognize, whereas USF St. Petersburg and the Florida YMCA Youth in Government have partnered to establish the Civic Fellows Program, and whereas this collaboration between a university and a statewide youth in government initiative is the first of its kind nationwide, and whereas this inaugural Summer Civics Institute includes students and YMCA chapters from throughout the state of Florida, and whereas the participants are civically engaged students representing the next generation of public servants and community leaders, and whereas it is a priority of the local and state government to strengthen and support civic education programming for all youth in the state of Florida. And whereas these students are contributing to the civic health and well-being of our community, and we are proud to welcome them to Madeira Beach. And whereas the lead instructor of the Civic Fellows Program, USFSP Political Science Professor Judith Ann Scarfield of McLaughlin, okay, is a longtime resident of Madeira Beach. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Madeira Beach Board of City Commissioners that Thursday, June 13th, be recognized as the USFSP YMCA Youth and Government Civic Fellows Day. Congratulations.
Can we get a picture?
And I would like to say, I think it was about a month ago, Judith Ann brought a couple of busloads of kids about ready to graduate from high school who, every one of them was interested in government, and they came here, and Mr. Evans gave a great speech for them all. They learned a lot, and they asked a lot of questions, and it was just amazing that, you know, they're so interested at such a young age. So thank you again. The next proclamation is recognizing Jonathan Evans for his service as city manager of the City of Madeira Beach. Whereas the Board of Commissioners would like to thank and recognize City Manager Evans for his energy, enthusiasm, and commitment to public service, and whereas with Mr. Evans' support, the city was able to develop public policies that created a mission and vital statement, as well as organizing values, something that has never been done since the city's inception. And whereas the city budget processes goals and objectives, as well as quantifiable measurements for determining the success of municipal operations, and whereas under his leadership, staff identified compensation inequities and took corrective measures to ensure that all employees are compensated fairly and equally, thus making the city more competitive with his peer agencies. And where Mr. Evans made himself accessible to the members of the community by hosting coffee with the manager and participating in community listening tours. And whereas for approximately 17 months, Mr. Evans volunteered as a mentor at Madeira Beach Fundamental K-8 School on a weekly basis to encourage and motivate local students. And whereas the Board of Commissioners is sorry to see Mr. Evans depart, but wishes him all the best in his future endeavors, he has served the city with distinction and class. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the Madeira Beach Board of City Commissioners that Tuesday, July 9th, 2019, be recognized as Jonathan Evans Day. Thank you. Oh, the most important part. next on the agenda, we have presentations. Wait a minute, let me see, we can move things around here. Oh, we have no presentations, but we're going to put the, discuss the, go to number 10B, Babe Ruth World Discussions Donation Discussion. Mr. Hatch, Director Hatch.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Beginning on July 25th, Madeira Beach Youth Baseball and Softball will be sending their 10U and 12U teams to the Babe Ruth World Series tournament. So in the 10U and the 12U brackets, they will be 1 in 24 teams across the country representing their city, and Madeira Beach will be one of them in both age groups. This was actually brought to us through Commissioner Andrews. He emailed Mr. Evans about a potential donation through the city, so I guess I can let him take it from there as far as what he was thinking, and then we'll.
Oh, sure, I wasn't
Yeah.
ready. No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Hi, all. I'm gonna keep this short, but 4 years ago, we kind of became the only community, we may be the only community that is actually financially involved with their Little League. Most are run independently, most are run as separate clubs or organizations, but this idea was hatched, and frankly, it wasn't a huge revenue benefit to the city when there was only 67 kids in it. But now this league has grown in 4 years to, what, 325, 350?
Over 300.
Over 300, which is just an amazing accomplishment, and the credit to these folks here and to the rest of their staff and their board. The importance of this is crazy. I mean, we're talking about our little town of Madeira Beach is sending 2 teams, which are 1 in 24 of their age group, to the National Babe Ruth World Series. It's just an amazing accomplishment, and all the credit in the world to the people that teach and coach. And the idea of the city getting involved initially was simply this: you guys let us be the bank. We'll take care of the uniforms. We'll take care of the fields. We'll take care of this. We'll take care of that. You guys just go out there and teach your kids and have fun. And you can see what kind of growth and what kind of success we've had from there. So I'm really proud of you guys. I really am. And I'm proud of you too. It's just been tremendous. So, Jay can kind of get into, the revenue stream of what this now brings in. I think we have another season that's still not in the books yet. But it's turned into a profit center. It wasn't how it was designed in the beginning, but it has turned into a profit center for the city because these guys don't abuse the privilege. And the idea of them going to this thing and, needing a couple of bucks to help some of the families that can't financially make it there is great. On a personal note, my store, and I gathered around a bunch of business owners in the area, we'll be making a donation together to the Mad Beach Youth Baseball and Softball Association on Friday at their cookout. So I'd like to see what the board is comfortable with, giving a little donation from our profit margin to send these girls off and let them have a great time and come bring back the gold.
Madam Mayor, if I may, to build on Commissioner Andrews' points, and I think it's important to hear from the folks that are here today that this is not something that happens every year. It is a unique circumstance that you have teams that are afforded the opportunity to go and play at such a high level. And certainly from the city manager's office, we saw it as an opportunity to sponsor the young people in our community, because there is an opportunity to encourage them and support them as a team as they go and ultimately try to win the championship and bring it home. So certainly we have the funds that are available. Director Hatch can get in more specific nuances of how the program operates, but we see this as an opportunity to sponsor 2 teams to assist them in offsetting and defraying some of the costs, because this is a very expensive outfit and an expensive trip that they would have to go on. So if you gentlemen would kind of communicate, what got you to this point, and then some of the costs that you have to incur to be able to see this come to fruition, so the board has a little bit of perspective on it.
Absolutely. So I am Darren McClellan. I'm actually the president of the Madeira Beach Youth Baseball Softball Boosters Club, Ben Tubbs, and this is my daughter, Kate. a quick history. We were 53 years, we were Little League, and actually the third oldest Little League in the state of Florida. When the fields were switched over, sat down and we discussed about actually making the change to Babe Ruth. Financially, it was a better fit for us. We were able to grow a lot more. And with the success and the growth has come titles, in all honesty. We've done extremely well locally and statewide, and then regionally too. We recently were both our 12U and our 14U teams were regional champs for the Southeast region. So we continue to grow. We've kept our core values of teaching, having fun, and it's really grown. And I always tell the rest of our parents that we are now the premier baseball and softball league in Pinellas County, and that there's actually no real question about that. That's a fact. This is a big tournament for us. The fact that we have two teams is a big accomplishment for us. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of work. But it's 10 days. It's 10 days for the 12U team. It's 10 days for the 14U team. So as you can see in front of you here, the 166402 is what we're estimating it's going to be per family to go out to this tournament. So it's a long time, and it's an expensive haul for us. We're looking forward to it. We've obviously are working towards donations. Anything you all can give, obviously, through the city would be greatly appreciated. But we've had a great relationship with J. Hatch City. Continue to really prosper and to grow within our baseball and softball community. So if there's any questions, please let us know. But we're looking forward to it. But financially, it's a tough one for us.
Hey, Kate, step up for a second. Look at her shirt, okay? For 53 years, they wore Gulf Beach's Little League on their shirt, and the only stickling point between Darren and the rest of the board during the whole time, I said, I'll tell you what, we'll go into this and we'll have a good time with this, but you're wearing Madeira Beach on the front of your uniforms, or else they're saying it is a done deal. So after I had to fight my way out of a meeting, we ended up agreeing to it, and that's what our kids walk around wearing, proudly displaying our Madeira Beach logos, and it's just a great thing, guys. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. On one more side note, too, because of our success and reputation is kind of becoming a thing within our league, especially softball-wise, our fields are known throughout the state. So we are actually having communication, too, about possibly doing regional tournaments here, possibly. I know Jay Hatch and I have spoke about it, and people love the concept of having girls come in from other parts of the Southeast to come in here. And with that, we're talking families. It's a lot of families coming into the area who actually would love to stay at the beach. So with our success, we're actually able to promote the area, obviously. So. Questions? Anything?
I don't have a question for y'all. I think it's a great accomplishment. I think it's a wonderful thing. I know in the past where we've had different groups come before the city, we've always asked if there's a number of 501 or because normally the city only makes those. What is that situation?
Yes, in most cases, a 501c6 or 501c3, but they qualify. They have, I'm sure, the appropriate paperwork to receive contributions.
Yes.
And just to pile on a little more, this isn't, they're not just simply walking up here asking for a handout. I think, was it 2 weeks ago, you guys had over 100 people doing a beach cleanup?
Yes.
The second annual beach cleanup.
53.
Darren single-handedly coaches 4 soccer teams every year in our soccer division. So, there's all sorts of involvement from the other coaches in the league that, if it weren't raining out right now, they'd be out there coaching as well as trying to be in here talking to us. So there's a lot of investment, and this is, as Doug said, as far as the budget goes with that, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a huge profit center. It's we build a cushion in it for emergencies. When we talked about either matching a donation that he said he was going to give, or stepping up to something similar, I identified we call it the Little League line item, as well as the promotions line item, as 2 spaces where we have funding available that wouldn't put us in any harm of going over. So based on that consideration, that's where we would go if that's something that you guys are all on board with.
Well, I'm certainly in favor. I played softball as a teenager myself, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I was pretty good, too.
Good.
So the question really, I don't know if this was under staff reports. Are we supposed to make a decision today?
Certainly, we would like for the board to tell us what number that you're comfortable with. I know Director Hatch in the memorandum, I don't have it in front of me, was proposing a contribution or sponsorship of how much?
Well, it says 1,400 participant. I believe in the initial conversation, Mr. Andrews mentioned his personal business at $711 for 7-Eleven, but he also partnered with some other organizations. I think if I were to throw a number out there, maybe 1,000 per team as far as the support would kind of get us where I'm comfortable with. If that's where you guys are, if it's too low, too high.
Did you say per team?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to make a recommendation that we support this an amount of like 5,000 for each team.
I was thinking, number.
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more.
That sounds like a second?
Was that a second?
I'm sorry, I second that motion, yes.
I believe I'm going to have to open this up for public comment. Is that correct, City Attorney?
Yep.
So we're open for public comment right now. Mr. Pryor? Yes, please.
Right here.
All right.
Good for you.
Any more public comments like that?
Anybody else wish to place money on the dais? No, seriously, any other public comment?
I'd like to just make one comment. If you can stop down on Saturday to the VFW. Saturday mornings I'm there. And the VFW, on behalf of Deer Beach, will donate $1,000 also.
All right. That's great.
Thank you. All right, I guess we just need a motion.
Yeah,
Oh,
motion
I'm
second.
sorry, that's right. Any more discussion? No. Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Douther,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we have
It would be
Nine-
item
9A.
9A. Yes.
9A, Resolution 2019-11.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this resolution, number 2019-11, is the $15,063,000 capital improvement bond, revenue bond, Series 2019, and this agenda item is to seek approval for this capital improvement revenue bond series. The staff heard from Crystal Island surrounding residents in February and March, and the financial advisor was, who's here today, Nick Roca, to send out a revenue loan RFP for $15 million for the stormwater improvement project. And there is a bank that is the winner of this bid, and prior to this meeting, there was a pre-signing of loan documents, and the closing, if approved, will take place this Thursday, and the funds would be wired before the end of this week. And before Nick, I'll turn this over to Nick, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments. We did open up a new bank account with Florida Palm. This money would be earning an interest of 2.44%, and there has been an expenditure, for expenditure appropriations, there's been a separate account set up so that the expenditures have a separate account for, this money will have, going against it, expenditures will have a separate account. The money will be in a separate bank account, so it will only be used for this one purpose, for the Crystal Island and surrounding areas for their stormwater. And quite frankly, this will take a huge bite out of the stormwater issues that the city has. This is the largest loan that the city, any single loan that the city has faced. And also, the payment per year for 20 years will roughly be about $1 million. The first year for FY 2020, there will be just an interest payment of $372,000, roughly about $772,000. So with that, and we'll say one thing too, this whole, the construction costs and the funding of this has been presented to the Budget Review Committee, and they recommended this funding unanimously. So I guess I'll turn it over to Nick, our city's financial advisor, for any presentation or questions that he may have.
Yeah, good evening, Commission. Walt did a pretty good job summarizing it here. As y'all know, we have a loan here for $15 million that we went out for RFP. We received 4 responses back. The response from Sterling National Bank was the most responsive and offered the best combination of acceptable covenants and low interest rate. This loan will feature a 3.07 interest rate, and that's fixed for the entire 20 years of the loan. And will also feature prepayment options if the city wants to prepay it ahead of that. If approved tonight, this loan will close on Thursday, July 11th. The funds will be deposited into account for the city. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have about this loan.
I've asked y'all all the questions I can think of. I don't know about y'all.
I know we discussed it extensively before, so you've done a great job with your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may also, with respect to the $15 million, there's certain projects, when we get into the roadway projects themselves, that the city can look for cooperative funding from the Water Management District. We've done some preliminary analysis on Pelican Lane, and there seems to be an opportunity for pervious concrete there, but that is a policy decision that the Board of Commissioners would make in subsequent discussion. So there is opportunities to effectively seek out additional monies to offset the cost that this particular debt issuance will cost you in today's dollars. So just wanted to let you know that staff is looking at all different alternatives and all other funding opportunities through the Water Management District or even available funds through the state, et cetera. So, but those projects and those other projects outside of Crystal Island will come back to this board to get direction from as to how the city wishes to proceed.
Well, do we have an estimate on what we're going to have to raise the millage rate to pay for this? Because, I mean, we got the public here. I mean, this is, I've said it before, and I'm not, look, I am all for doing the roads. I'm all for getting this loan. I have stated it before. I think we're a little ahead of our skis. We might have wanted to wait until we had a budget and a plan in place to pay for the loan, but we are where we are now, and I'm not going to turn back now, but we don't have $1 million extra a month just lying around, so we've got to generate revenue from somewhere, and I don't think we can raise parking to $10 an hour. So how are we going? What is your proposed millage rate, just so everybody in the audience can kind of get an idea of what we're thinking?
And we can talk more about this at the budget workshop on the 22nd when we see some of the numbers of the general fund. The general fund will have to support this through to the stormwater fund as far as the payments. And you can't take on some of this without increasing something. And the numbers that I've ran for the Budget Review Committee, on the low end for the first year to cover the interest, we would definitely have to increase the millage to 2.5. And the year 2021, where we would be looking at $1 million payment per year, we would have to, the millage at that time would have to be at a minimum of 2.75. So the budget, this was presented to the Budget Review Committee. You either this year or for 2020, you either go to the 2.75 or you go to the 2.50, but eventually in year 2021, the millage would have to be at a minimum of 2.75.
I appreciate that, Walt. No, I just think it's important that we get this out there. We're not just going to get a big check for $15 million and everybody's going to keep paying the same millage rate. We got to raise the money somehow in order to pay this loan off. So I think the more we're upfront and the more we're transparent about it, the better off. So it's not going to be a surprise come and we get a big article in the paper about it. Oh, we're raising the millage rate. No, we're raising the millage rate for a reason. But I'm glad you brought those numbers up because I think it gives everybody a little bit of a target on what to be expecting. So thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Say one thing.
if
just
I
one
may,
thing.
you also have the option to, if the board wanted to consider a millage rate increase, you do have the available funds in your fund balance that is still going to give you a healthy fund balance to where you can pay the interest payment that will be due as part of the next fiscal year, but you would have to look at increasing your millage rate in 2021. So in the event that the board did not want to proceed forward with the millage rate this year, you do have the option to fund it, at least the interest-only payment, out of available fund balance. And if you wanted to have more conversation and dialogue with the public about the impending millage rate increase to offset the cost associated with the bank note, you have that option that's available to you as well.
And one of the, I was just going to mention that Budget Review Committee came to the, and again, this can be mentioned at the workshop, Budget Review Committee did feel that if FY 2021, you were looking at that millage rate of 2.75, that maybe that be implemented or that you go to that for the 2020 budget. And that was the recommendation of the Budget Committee.
And on Director Pierce's point, their issue was they don't want to see a situation whereby the millage rate goes up in 1 year and then goes up again in year 2. They would much rather it go up to what is needed to fund the debt service, and then that be it. Also, you can effectively pledge the increase, the incremental increase in your millage rate associated exclusively with paying this debt off. So that's something that you can communicate to the public, that the increase and the revenue generated from this millage rate, or a portion of it, depends on the policy decision of the board, can go directly to that. So you have some options that are available to you when staff brings you the budget document to consider here in the end of the month.
The other thing that needs to be pointed out too, that we've had increased costs. So we were probably looking at some type of increase even if we weren't facing this payment, because we've had increased costs. The millage has been the same rate for the last 4 years, and quite frankly, the parking has been helping out a lot, but some things there have been distractions in the past, red tide and hurricanes, that have not made the parking revenue a permanent guarantee. The ad valorem is a guarantee. So that's, again, a decision that the commission is going to need to make.
No more questions? Thank you, Nick. Well, I know the staff has recommended that we approve it, and it has a unanimous approval from the Budget Committee, the Budget Review Committee. So with that going forward, do we have any more discussion? There will be in a moment. I'll open it for public comment right now. Mr. Pryor?
Good day, my name's Roger Pryor at 223 144th Avenue. I'm with the Budget Committee, and we did come to the same consensus that we probably could go ahead and raise the millage rate from 2.2 to 2.75 as a top limit, not necessarily apply that, but based upon the board's decision as to later on whether you go 2.75, 2.55, or what number that you really think is correct. So we really have a really long hour of discussion that, let me explain to you, I'm a homeowner. I don't want you to go up, okay, because I have to pay more. I'm poor old people, okay? But I also want to say probably we could take half of Mr. Evans' severance payment and pay for half of this, probably. No comment, huh? I'm going to read something to you from a document that we all received. Okay? And it says, "Hey, Crystal Island and others, tired of being promised your streets will be paved? By the end of fiscal year 2019, I will have a road paving and we'll finish the job in Crystal Island and other places."
Looks like I was right.
Yeah, well done, right? Okay.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. I'm really happy that Crystal Isle is getting the roads done. It needs to get done. And we're looking at 2021 at a 2.75 millage increase. And the terms of that loan is 20 years, correct? So my road's in difficult shape. There's other roads that are becoming really close to the same condition as the Crystal Isle roads. So this millage rate is not going to say at 2.75 that we're going to continue to fix the roads that need to be fixed, or something else has to be done. So you as commissioners need to think about all these other roads that need to be done and what's doing in the future, because the 2.75 is not going to cover future road work. Not going to happen, or anything else that happens. So you need to think about this really hard. I think 2.75 is actually appropriate, but we need to get money. We haven't received any grants for anything for 3 years. 0. Grants could help us a whole lot. So we need to think about that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may, to the speaker's comment, out of that 15 million, 7.5 million is earmarked for the Crystal Island project. The remaining balance is to address some of the failing infrastructure in the roadway network throughout the community. So that is what I said earlier, that you all would prioritize some of the roadways throughout the community. We know Parsley and Marguerite and some other roadways in the community are in desperate need of repair, but you will have an opportunity to have conversations with the finance director, the public works director, and Al Carrier, the engineer of record, to prioritize those roadway projects that are outside of the $7.5 million that's earmarked for the Crystal Island project.
Thank you.
And also, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Frank Stegmeyer, 15401 2nd Street East. I just have a question from what you just said. I'm a building contractor. I don't normally go out and borrow all the money from my projects before I even know where the money's going to be spent or how it's going to be allocated. As a citizen, I'm concerned that we're going to be borrowing this money, paying in interest, the differential between what he had suggested and the other money. I understand it's a small differential, but you're borrowing all the money in advance, and it seems like the projects aren't even planned out yet. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, in the interest of transparency, this is probably, we decided, and in discussions with the city's financial advisor, and some of the options that he presented to the commission, and not everybody probably had an opportunity to see that, but the decision was made to go out for all the money that was needed to cover these immediate needs because of the low interest rates right now that we're facing. The interest rates right now at 3.07% is excellent, but on the other side, on the interest earned that we'll be making from this money will pretty much offset that interest. So, and maybe Nick can talk more about this, the financing right now is not really, it's unusual, and it's actually a plus. So we really could not borrow at a better time right now, and Nick can go into more detail on that.
Yeah, so as Walt was saying, the long-term interest rates are still near historic lows, and short-term interest rates, as you know, as the Fed has moved up, short-term interest rates have risen. So the differential of what you're paying on this loan and what you'll be able to earn on the proceeds that haven't been spent is about 0.5%. A little over 0.5% is really what you're borrowing at now, but we felt it was advantageous to go ahead and lock in rates now that we know that long-term interest rates are very attractive.
And I'll give an example. We had a couple of years, and I indicated this to the board a couple of meetings ago, we locked in, our previous finance director was able to lock in the earned interest rate at Hancock Bank at the time at an excellent rate of 0.7%. And with the negotiation that we have done just recently, that's over 2, or actually at 2.2%. So we're actually going to make, in the general fund, at least $80,000 extra next year because of that. So the interest rates have, on the interest rates earned from banks, have really increased significantly. So it's kind of unusual in an economy to see that the interest or borrowing on the interest rates are low and also have the interest rate earned at a high level. So the bottom line is it's the best time to do this and the best time to get as much as we can to take advantage of this great period of time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hilla. I'm on 360, 137th Ave Circle. Little hoop by Church by the Sea, and I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess. We've got our roads constructions in the process, but we're suffering a number of situations. And the main issue is that we're not getting accurate information about the impact and the schedule of when we won't be able to get a vehicle to our house. The scenarios on this are limitless, but basically, can we access our home with our vehicle? Can we do where can we park? This has been totally unplanned and disorganized. Everybody's telling us to go to Church by the Sea. Nobody has spoken with Church by the Sea about this. So what do we do when the Church by the Sea is full? We've got a carload of kids. What do we do? Park down at the city park? Where do we go? Come in from a vacation at 3 o'clock in the morning, try to unload all our bags, can't even get a spot within a couple blocks of our residence. I mean, I could elaborate all night long on that, and I'm not going to do that. But medical emergencies, we've already had some. We've got people older than I or younger than I that are suffering medical issues and going back and forth to doctors and hospitals. And they can't even get from their door to the Church by the Sea parking lot without assistance. Hurricane evacuation. I'm told all this will be handled, but I flew with hurricane hunters for 11 years. And I'm looking at that stuff out there, and we're not going to get vehicles into our houses. Not all of them. But the main thing is we're getting mixed contradicting information about the schedule and what's going to be done when. Nothing is consistent. I've spoken with Mr. Carrier. I've spoken with the supervisor. Tuesday night at 9:30, I got a letter from their head office saying that we're going to be shut out for a month from our streets, which contradicts everything the other two supervisors told me. We were promised a minimum of 2 weeks' notice, and we got less than a week, and not one business day in that period. So whether we can be helped now, or the people that are waiting for their streets can be worked on, or we can work out some sort of a information system for them, I hope we can build on this a little bit. That's all I got to say about that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You had some very good questions, and I'm sure we will find out the answers and make sure it all goes as smoothly as possible. Anybody else wish to speak? You want to speak? No. Okay. The floor is now closed for public comment. Any more discussion on this item? Read it. Oh, can you please turn on your mic? Your mic.
Sorry. Yes, I will go ahead and, if there's no more discussion from the commission, to move to approve the resolution 2019-11 and the $15,063,000 capital improvement revenue bond, series 2019.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Ms. City Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, yes, please.
Resolution number 2019-11, a resolution of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, authorizing the issuance of a capital improvement revenue bond, Series 2019 of the city in the principal amount of not to exceed $15,100,000 to finance, refinance, and/or reimburse the cost of the acquisition, construction, reconstruction, expansion, design, placement, and/or equipment of various capital projects within the city and paying associated transactional costs, providing that the bond shall be limited obligation of the city payable from non-ad valorem revenues budgeted, appropriated, and deposited as provided herein, providing for the rights, securities, and remedies for the owner of the bond, making certain covenants and agreements in connection therewith, and providing an effective date. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douther?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Before we have public comment, Vice Mayor has asked to have a few words before we continue.
Thank you. I promise I'll only be a minute. This past week, Mr. Preston had come up to the podium during one of our meetings, and he made a statement regarding conversation he had overheard or was talked to when he was at the Home Depot locally. And without knowing, this past weekend, I have gone ahead and put some of my thoughts together, which just about paralleled almost what Mr. Preston had said. And I just wanted to read it, and these are just my thoughts, and it was something that I've just been very concerned about. This past weekend, I sat and thought about the series of events that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. We as a commission should be ashamed of the rash of negative activity resulting and newspaper articles describing our beautiful city. I have worked hard to do my best as a commissioner, to be fair and honest, making decisions that I hope would benefit the need of the city and all the residents who have placed their trust in me. I do understand that it is impossible to please everyone, but careful thoughts were always put into my final decisions. We are still a very much divided commission, but we are here not for personal gain, but for the city. We all have our opinions on subjects, but the main focus should always be what is best for the city, not our personal gain. This is not about us, it is about the city we represent. The personal attacks have continued, and this is no way helping our city move forward. We have outstanding employees who keep our city moving, and we should trust that they know their jobs completely. Administration is in place to help guide each and every one of us, and without them, we would be lost. All this falls under teamwork. When you come into the chambers, your personal feelings should be left outside the door, and you come through the door with the intent of making our city the best ever. We will not always agree, but there is always room for compromise. If we don't work together, we failed ourselves, our employees, our city, and above all, the residents who have placed their trust in us to do a job needed for Madeira Beach. It is time to reflect on our mistakes and correct them, the judgments and change the attitude, and put first everyone we represent in order to move forward. Finger pointing is so easy, but we need to take responsibility to the next level, be proud of who we are, and make Madeira Beach the city it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
The floor is now open for public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. If you're addressing the commission, step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do not include any topic that is on the agenda. Public comment on those agendas will be allowed when they come up. And please remember to be civil and respectful. Thank you.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. The gentleman was just talking about 137th Circle, and I sent Mr. Evans something today. And this has been a continuing problem. I live on the canal between 140th North, South Bayshore and 137th. So in the past, the construction workers were supposed to put a silt screen up, and they didn't do that. Then they finally got the silk screen up, and they were pumping water over the top of the silt screen, so all the silt and stuff was going over the silt screen. That's the boom. Well, they finally got that straight, and then they started pumping underneath the boom, so all the silt and stuff was going into the inlet. Today, oh, let me back up just a little bit. I called the city. That's not our problem. Then I ended up calling Pinellas County DEC. They got involved, and they told me, well, I'm not seeing it right now because they just corrected it. So they couldn't do anything. So today, and I know we got a lot of rain, but we always get a lot of rain in Florida. No boom, no silt boom, no nothing. And there was enough silt to fill from the jet ski all the way back to this inlet from the stuff that was coming off 137th. And I got tired of it. I ended up calling the state of Florida, the Department of DEC. I contacted Al Carrier as well, and I contacted Pinellas County Environmental. These people that are doing that project on 137th know what they're supposed to do to prevent the silt and stuff going in our intercoastal. And they take it as something on the back burner that they really don't have to do unless they're forced to do it. The laws require them not to put silt in our waterways. And they do it. So I'm just letting you know that the state of Florida, DEC, they called me back today. And they may be knocking on the city's door because they were not following through and watching the work that was done on 137th. So it's not just the poor gentleman's problem getting in and out. It's much bigger than that. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Yours truly. There you go.
Hello? Wow, this thing finally works. All the money they spent on this building. Stephen Barrett, 11975 3rd Street East, Island of Treasure. Do you folks miss me as much as I miss y'all? All right, anyways, what I just gave you is a packet. The first page is a report I filed with law enforcement for cyber stalking. The next page is I tried petitioning the court to get a stalking injunction. And then the following pages are threatening text messages Shane Crawford, the ex-city manager, sent me on April the 16th, telling me he's my worst effing nightmare, that he knows where I'm at and when I'm gonna be there, watch over my shoulder. So I got him into a courtroom. I tried petitioning to get protection. Charges have been forwarded to the state attorney's office and are pending. And there you go, there you have it. It's not hearsay, it's fact. And that pretty much sums it up, folks. You know, a lot of irony there, but there it is. And I'm going to every city and doing this in the whole entire county. I'm going on a countywide tour. It isn't just this city, you guys are just the first. So, have a good one.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Frank Stegmeyer, 15401 2nd Street East. I just want to thank you all. We had a great 4th of July weekend. The city did a great job, and you've been doing a lot of good stuff for us, and I really want to thank you for that. But my wife and I are here, and a lot of my neighbors have a lot of concerns. We're starting to get more and more sailboats moored all over the waters of the city. And I think it's become a problem. My neighbor goes out and you're allowed to run some personal traps, and he rows out for his exercise, and he says as he's out there in the mornings, he's seeing them throwing their trash off the boat. We've got liveaboards. I don't know what they're doing with their bilges, okay? The lighting is substandard. We were out last week at night and almost hit one of the sailboats because there wasn't a light on it. You know, their lighting is not proper for anchor lighting. I don't think they're doing anything right. My understanding is that a lot of them came here from Gulfport because Gulfport put mooring fees in place. If you anchored in the waters in the city, they charge them so much for the initial permit and then so much a day. I don't know what those numbers are. But I've been here 32 years. We run skis and kneeboards and things around the bay over here. Now we've got 2 boats anchored over here. First it was over on the other side of the bridge, then it started on this side of the bridge, now it's into the next cove over here where I live. So I think you guys need to address it and concern it that it's becoming a real problem in the city. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I have some questions on it. And maybe it should be taken off, because I know the consent agenda normally just gets taken care of very quickly. But I have some concerns on the approval of minutes on the May 14th meeting, and I just wanted to clarify them. Would it be easier if I get with the city clerk, perhaps perhaps tomorrow? Would that be okay, city clerk? Okay, and then we can look over them. And can we hold off and not approve those minutes then? Okay, okay. And what time would suit you?
Anytime before 11.
Afternoon?
And we'll be back at 2. We have a clerk's luncheon.
Okay, how about 2:30?
2:30 would be perfect.
Right, okay, I'll see you at 2:30. Thank you.
All right, so we're looking for a motion then to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes for the 14th of May.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus the minutes from the regular meeting of 2019-05-14.
I second.
City clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Doubter? Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. The next item under unfinished business is ordinance 2019-06.
Madam Mayor, that's changed.
It did change?
Yeah, under the new one, it's the employment agreement is A.
Wait, okay.
You have it? Did you get a copy of it? Okay. Did you get a copy, Maggie?
What is that? No, I did not get that. Thank you. My apologies, I did not get this. The first item then is the employment agreement for the interim city manager. Ms. Paulson, or city attorney, oh, he's not here either. I believe the city attorney's on his way in. He's coming, he's right at the door.
Madam Mayor, the item before you is the employment agreement between the City of Madeira Beach and the interim manager. The city attorney worked with the Human Resources Coordinator to draft a proposed employment agreement. At this particular moment, I will turn it over to the city attorney to walk the board through certain elements in the employment agreement, and then Ms. Paulson is here to answer any questions that the board may have concerning the employment agreement or the employee themselves.
This is a proposed draft employment agreement. The interim city manager, Bob Daniels, has reviewed it and would agree to these terms. That doesn't mean that these terms can't be changed or can't be discussed. This is something to get the ball rolling and put this in front of you, hopefully for approval tonight so that he can begin tomorrow. He's packing up and he's going to leave at 3 in the morning and head over here to begin work tomorrow morning. The basic agreement is the Jonathan Evans employment contract. So we took that contract and we modified it for the interim city manager. The main terms is that they would begin tomorrow morning. The Salary would be the equivalent of about $125,000 per year, prorated per month. Benefits would not start until after 90 days. It's not anticipated that he would be here a full 90 days, but he is worried that if he gets stuck here for a year, that he does want benefits kicking in at some point. The other terms are very similar to the city manager's contract currently. We're here to answer any questions, and Karen is here to also to discuss any issues that you may have. We also thought that if he is here for 90 days, that he would be evaluated and the contract could be renegotiated after 90 days. So I think it's anticipated that he'll be here. How long, Karen? We think it's 60 days if Mr. Drum accepts to go forward. Have you heard from the permanent city manager candidate, Mr. Drum, yet?
Yes, I heard from Mr. Drum today. He needed to discuss the offer with his wife tonight, and he is going to give us an answer tomorrow.
And if he does accept, when would he begin?
He would want to give a 60-day notice, but he said he may be able to get here sooner if they were to let him out of his contract.
Okay. And I'm assuming the 60 days is predicated on an approved contract, so whenever that contract is executed, that's when he would provide his notice.
Karen, I have a question.
Okay.
It's under number F, just on the other side of benefits, about the accommodations. I'm just a little concerned since we don't have a dollar amount set anywhere there. It's only at a rate comparable, at a weekly rate, without knowing exactly what we're going to be paying on this. Can you clarify anything for me on it?
All I can say is that we have tried to, myself and Mr. Daniels have both been trying to work out a monthly contract or a monthly rental with Courtyard right here. They just said that they have, their general manager has to make that decision, and Mr. Daniels hasn't heard back from him yet, even though he left him a message. I did hear that their rate, I know when we had our candidates for city manager here, a couple of them stayed there and it was $179 a night, but I would think that they would give us a break if we did a long-term monthly. But we still have to talk to them about that. I think that the Holiday Inn Express I heard was about $133 a night. So, we could just kind of say it can't be over X amount, possibly.
Okay.
I thought the government rate at the Marriott was $131 a night.
I had heard that too from Mr.
Yeah,
Daniels.
that's what they
and I don't
told
know
me.
why. I don't know why they're not offering it.
Okay.
I think we need to make them pay that.
Yeah,
offer that
that's what I
much.
was told by them.
Yeah,
It was
that's what I had
$131 a
heard
night.
too. It just hasn't been settled yet.
Karen, I got a couple questions. You mentioned Mr. Drum earlier. Did we make a financial offer to Mr. Drum or just an offer of employment?
I'm sorry. We had only offered him employment.
Okay.
We haven't.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we haven't jumped ahead of this. Secondly, did we do any background checks on Mr. Daniels?
I'm currently doing those right now.
Okay, so we're going to have him start work tomorrow and we don't have his background checks back? I know it's a short time window, but that's kind of an important thing. Lastly, did he ever give, not lastly, did he give us a reason why he was terminated from his last job?
He told me that it had to do with an employment, his employment contract with Melbourne regarding his FRS retirement. He said that they had informed him they were not a FRS employer, and turns out that they were, and he was 3 days shy of his 1 year. He can't start for a year after retiring from FRS, so he had a problem with that, and it was settled and resolved, and he was terminated without cause.
Okay, because Did we call the employer? Did we get feedback from them? Did we vet him? Did we talk to the employer about this and not just take his word for it?
I haven't called the employer. I've emailed back and forth with them, and they're just sending me evaluations, discipline.
Okay, and he starts tomorrow. So I just, this is no disrespect to Mr. Daniels, but I Googled him and I found out that he was fired. He was there for well over a year. He was there for a year and a half, it looked like. He got hired in November and got fired the following March, so over a year. He was voted out by the commission by a 4-1 margin, and the mayor in the newspaper article said that the reasons were leadership ability, concerns with project planning, implementation, and follow-through, and lack of staff morale. Okay, so that, like I said, that was in the paper. I didn't see any retracts from it or anything like that. My point is, and this isn't on you, Karen, my point to my fellow commissioners, we are going out paying top dollar, moving a guy across the state, paying for his lodging and his accommodations and giving him $500 car allowance. He was making $96,000 a year, and that was after a raise from his 1-year raise from his last job. And now we're about to pay him $10,000 plus a month, okay? 2 days vacation, 2 sick days every month. So if he wanted to, he could work 20 work days in a month. He could work 16 days and bring $10,416.66. Of course he'd be interested in taking the job. If you went from $96,000 to, what does that base look like? Is it 125? 10,000? Okay, that probably makes sense. Okay. I'm concerned, so I just kind of want to put that out there. We can't really, we've already gone through this exercise of the lack of vetting of employees, okay? And I really don't want to go through this again. I really don't. So I don't know. You guys do what you want, but that's concerning to me.
I have a couple of questions, Karen, or City Attorney. With regards to the benefits, I thought when we were taking away, or when you suggested taking away the benefits, there was not going to be sick leave or vacation discussed until after 90 days. Is that correct?
Well, people do get sick. Even if they're only here for 30 days or 60 days, they could be sick during that time. You should have some reasonable number of sick days.
What about the vacation? You're still, I know it's not a big, huge thing, but I did have that question, and let's see. And I am in agreement that should he stay for should we need him and he will be here for the 90 days, that yes, we should reevaluate and do do another contract. Let's see. Other than that, I'll have to say that, Mr. Evans advised us on June the 7th via email to start this process, and advised us again on June the 13th, and on June the 14th, it was still stagnant, and and I'm looking at the copies of the minutes when nobody really wanted to discuss the interim city manager position as late as July the 1st. And I think that is the obligation, the loss of us elected officials to take that burden on ourselves, because we didn't discuss it. I think that Mr. Daniels, I'm looking forward to him doing a very good job. When I've looked at all of his things, there's always, certainly, as we've known from many other individuals in the past, there's always two sides to every story. I think that when he does get in here, I think he intends to do a fine job for us. I think that we are certainly in violation of our charter if we don't have a city manager tomorrow morning reporting in, and I think it's important. I think we have to have that, and I think Robert Daniels was the the most qualified, so I'm good for it.
Commissioner, if I may, you said that he seemed the most qualified, and there's two sides to every story, and I couldn't agree more. Of course, there's two sides to every story. We didn't even interview this man. I mean, we know nothing about him. We got a resume put on his desk. He sat in the back of the room, and all of a sudden you anointed him, and you made a motion to make him your next city manager for the interim. And we did no background check on him. We've got the only words that we have, the only background that we have, since we don't have anything from his former employer, are there's leadership concerns. He's got problems with project planning, implementation, and follow-through, and a lack of staff morale. That doesn't frighten you? I mean, that to me, if we're not interviewing a person and we're turning over the keys to the city to a completely unknown quantity, I mean, why don't we just pick somebody off the street and do it then? Because it's the same thing. Anybody can put anything they want on a piece of paper. They can put whatever they want on a piece of paper. We didn't even give the guy the opportunity. If we were going to do this, he should have come up here yesterday. He could have answered our questions, and then we could have moved forward from there. But we just rushed through to it when we should have, and I'm going to go back to this again, and I know everybody's going to get mad. We should have somebody in-house that can take over this. Jonathan's got, 5 weeks vacation. What if he took a 3-week vacation? We don't have anybody that would have been able to step in, or we would have had to gone out to the street and find somebody to step in for Jonathan during that course of time and put him up in the courtyard. This is ridiculous. And it's a terrible contract, by the way.
We've already made the decision, so there's no sense in rehashing all of that at this point.
Maggie, we didn't know anything about the man. How
It
can you
doesn't
make a
matter.
decision?
We
I
voted
would
on
like,
it.
pardon me.
It's done. Now we have to go forward.
I would like to say that the mayor did give the commission the opportunity yesterday, I remember hearing it, that if we had any questions that we wanted to ask either of the gentlemen, to please state it, and nobody really said anything. I mean, nobody said anything. None of us said anything. I was content, certainly because of the, probably because of the position I felt put onto all of us, that by looking at their qualifications and also meeting them quite briefly, but being assured by Karen that a background check was being done. It would not be signed, sealed, and delivered until that background check, just so we didn't find out anything after it was signed. So that has to be done in the morning. Also, the job application is very important, and that will be done as soon as he gets here. And yes, I think we have to go forward on this.
As usual, completely ahead of our skis. This is insane. We're going to allow somebody to come to work without a background check, without any knowledge from his former employee what he did. We are going based on credentials that he put on a piece of paper without any verification. Any verification. There is no corporation, there is no city in America that would allow somebody like that to give him the key to the city and be the CEO of the city. This is literally insane.
Well, Commissioner, he's not getting the vitals of the city until he passes that muster. And I know that Mr. Daniels is aware of that, is talking to Karen, that she was working on getting the full details of the background information. And certainly, I'm like you, I certainly do not want to go into anything, but I think that it was the ineffectiveness of this commission to not follow it as diligently as we should have. It was our responsibility to make sure that July the 10th, we had a sitting interim city manager, and we stalled on it, and I think that it will certainly be, I think it'll be to our benefit, and I'm looking at it that way. I think that HR is, and I think that our departments are.
Ralph, what happens if he comes in here tomorrow, he's already signed his contract, and an enormous red flag comes up on his background check? What we would have to then terminate him and then pay him how much money?
Well, you could make this subject to a satisfactory criminal background check. Karen, have you done a criminal background check?
Yes, I've done the criminal background check. And
Has there
nothing
anything come up in the criminal?
Nothing.
So we know that there's no misdemeanors, no felonies, no crimes that have come up. If there's something about a management style, that's probably not grounds for termination with cause. So, I mean, if you decide that the majority wants to fire him for cause or for without cause, there is some provisions in there to do so. There's a 1-week severance, so it's something like $480. That's for cause. Without cause, it would be the 30 days. It would be the monthly rate. It's always hard to convince a city manager or a charter official to come into a divided council because the job is tenuous. So
That is a ridiculous
if you would
reason to
like
hire somebody.
If you'd
Come
like to
on.
put in subject to a satisfactory criminal background check, you could, but I think you've heard from Karen already that she's done that and he did pass that. I think we'd need a motion to approve or deny or for any modifications.
I would feel more comfortable if we had some type of figure there for the accommodations, instead of saying that they might pay $179 per night, or I think you said Holiday Inn was $133 per night. If we had more of an exact number amount, because after 30 days, that mounts up pretty fast. And if it's going to be 2 months that he's here, it's a lot of money.
I agree. It's just been so fast that we just haven't had time to get that nailed down, the price.
I would just like to see more figure there at that point so we know what we're looking at. Because that is a lot of money every month, every week, whatever. So that's my main concern right there. And as far as the background check, you said you are working on that. So.
Maybe we could cap it at 133 then.
Madam Mayor, if I may, one of the things the board can look at is a flat lump sum housing allowance that you were going to say, you're going to pay him $1,500 or $1,700 a month or what have you, and then that is his responsibility to go out and seek a place of residency versus if you find yourself in a situation where you're paying $130 per day, you're going to find yourself where you're going to be spending well over $3,000 or $4,000 a month housing somebody, where I'm sure that I rented a place here that you can get that's fully furnished for a fraction of what the cost would be. So there's those opportunities out there. It may take a little bit of legwork on his behalf, and maybe he has to stay in a hotel for at least the first week, but the board can offer and say, we'll give you a housing allowance of X, not to exceed $1,500 or $1,700, whatever the average, 1-bedroom place would be in the city. I think if you leave it open-ended, you then have a situation whereby the rates can fluctuate, or he may have to move out of that room because of peak or all those different things. In most situations where housing allowances are provided, they're capped and to say you're going to get $1,500 or $1,800 per month, and then you take care of the housing where you're supposed to reside. So that's an option the board can consider as well.
I would like to have, more of an idea of what we're looking at instead of guessing. And if we could put a set amount in there, that's one thing. But to try and figure out per night, like I said, that's a lot of money going out at one time. So that's my main concern there. And as far as his benefits, all the benefits show that nothing's going to start until after 90 days. And at that time, we're going to do a reevaluation. So he's going to have to wait for any type of benefits after that time. So the accommodation part was my main concern.
City Manager.
I would like to make a motion to accept the employment agreement for the interim city manager with Mr. Daniels, setting a $1,800, $2,000 a month to max housing allowance.
Do we have a second? There will be.
Yes, I'll second that.
I'm sorry,
Public comment?
Debbie, you second?
I seconded it, yes.
And then Mayor, we have public comment.
I was just getting ready. Public comment is now open on this item.
We have lots of lovely condominiums by the week here. Why aren't we talking to them? Why are we calling hotels that do a nightly rate? I mean, we have lovely ones. Why don't you, Jonathan, talk to your own HR person and give her the name of the place that you stayed for a fraction of the cost?
You already leased it. I tried.
Or anywhere. I mean, we have a lot of lovely places. We have our own business people in this city that could probably use a 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks rental in their condominium. So why don't you call some of them? I don't know. But I do like the idea of a cap and just give him a per diem or whatever, or just something, and then you could plan. I don't think you can do it for much less than $2,000 a month, though, to be honest, and stay here in the area. That's all. Oh, I forgot to announce myself. I'll remember that.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive, Madeira Beach. What's really disappointing about this whole process is that you didn't follow the process. You had a first choice, and she declined to take the appointment. And then you had a second person that it should have rolled right over to, who could have started right away. Mr. Bonner, you don't even follow your own processes. That's horrible. Second of all, you're offering him $125K. He was making less than $100,000. Why are you offering him $125K prorated? That's beyond me. When you work contract for somebody, you're responsible for your own stuff. If you don't come to work, you don't get paid. Forget about vacation time, forget about sick leave or whatever. If you don't come to work, you don't get paid. It's that simple. Sick leave, vacation time, that's just absolutely crazy. He's on contract. He's short-term. It's like having a part-time employee. They just don't get those benefits. You're looking at Mr. Drum, 30 days, 60 days. You've already made that choice. In either case, the only thing that he should get is a rate based on $100,000, maybe, and some per diem where he's responsible for his own car, his own housing, and his own food. If you decide that's $2,000, fine. I don't think it should be that much, because we shouldn't pay some guy that's going to be here for possibly 30 days or 60 days that much money. It's crazy. He's not even going to be able to get his feet on the ground and figure out what's happening here. And then somebody else is going to roll in. It's crazy. You have people here in the city that can take that position right now. And you know their names because they were given to you. And that's who you should appoint as interim city manager. What happened to the guy that you hired interim and he quit and came back and quit and came back, the fire chief? Why don't you hire him again? You seem to liked him really well. You know? I bet you he'd be willing, because you can control him, right?
Linda Hine, 401 150th Avenue, and my great-grandson Avery.
Why don't you that?
Wait a minute. We're not paying him on what he made before. It's for the job, whatever y'all think is reasonable. And also, yeah.
I want to do that too.
Okay, I'll let you do it. But whatever's reasonable and customary is what you should pay the person and any benefits. It's, you know, comparable to whatever. You know, you can't just, we're already in a bind. We need to have a city manager, and this is the guy that's been picked, and you need to work with the city manager and the lawyer to determine what that should be. And I just think you should move forward and do usual and customary. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? The floor is now closed for public comment. Any more discussion?
Again, I'd still like to see something under the accommodations as far as, you know, if we go ahead and cap it at 2,000, and he'd have to pay a difference of a price if he decides to stay somewhere else. I'm just really stuck on that. I really am. I'd just like to see something different under that section.
Madam Vice Mayor, if I'm, Commissioner Douther, correct me if I'm wrong, your motion was to approve the contract with the modification to allow for that $2,000, not to exceed $2,000 housing stipend.
Correct.
So that if the board approves the item with that motion, that would be inserted into the new agreement.
May I make one comment? I just wonder if it wouldn't be more prudent of this commission to approve the first week, you know, give him up to a week to be able to find a place, rather than saying, this is what you get, you know. Allowing the Marriott Courtyard to be the provider of his service for the first week, say 7 days, okay? And then the other goes into.
It probably would help
So it
him because he
amends
has
it.
nowhere to stay tomorrow, and I've looked
Exactly.
around to rent places, and it takes a couple of
Right,
days.
exactly.
to
So
find
you got to make it, you know, you have to be negotiable with it. I mean, you know, let's face it again, commissioners, you know, this was our obligation, and we faulted on it you know, since June the 7th. So, and we didn't get started on it until a week ago. So I think that we have to be wise in our decision. We can't, you know, be so sticky. So I agree with the 2,000, but I do think that it should wait until after the first 7 days. Let him stay in that Marriott Courtyard, and after that, he goes on the monthly rate. Okay?
I think Commissioner Douthat has a motion on the floor. Are you asking him to amend his motion? Or are you making an
Yes,
amendment to his
I will-
motion?
I will make the amendment to your motion.
You'll make a motion to amend, or would you like to ask him to amend his motion? It's a little bit easier if he's in agreement.
Pardon?
You could make a motion to amend his motion, or you could simply ask him if he would like to amend his motion, which makes it a little bit easier.
Why don't you just amend your own motion? Thank you.
If he's in agreement, then you don't have to have two votes.
So how am I amending this, Mr. Attorney?
I'm sorry, what?
How am I amending this?
Page 3, section 4F, the amendment would say, cities shall pay for accommodations at a hotel or rental unit or at rate comparable to weekly rate charge by Courtyard by Marriott, Madeira Beach, Florida, for 7 days, and thereafter, the city shall provide a housing allowance stipend of up to $2,000.
So you can say as so stated by the attorney.
As so stated by the attorney.
Do we have a second?
No, I made the motion.
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
No.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2019-06.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. We're here for the fees, right? You looked at me quizzically, so I wanted to make sure.
Happy to see you.
Okay. Better? Great. We're here for second reading on the fees ordinance. Last time that we had it before you, there were questions because some of the things were described in background memos but weren't incorporated in the text at that time. All of the changes have now been incorporated in the text. If you have any questions about specifics, we'll have the department heads from those areas come up and describe them and explain them to you. Otherwise, we put it before you with recommendation for approval. Obviously, it's important that we move forward with this because we need it for the budget process and also just to update, especially for parking fees, because it affects us on a daily basis.
I just have a question on page 22 of the fee schedule manual. There's a road closure fee for $1,000, which perhaps we discussed it, but I don't recall.
Madam Mayor, if I may, that particular fee we established in last year's iteration of the fee ordinance. We have eliminated the $1,000 fee, and now we will actually charge the billable hours that and the cost, the hard cost for that road closure fee, because we found out that it's roughly costing us about $450 to $500, and we were charging $1,000. So we were just having the new fee reflect what the actual cost is, and that is part of the application process, that if somebody wanted to go to effectively have an event that would necessitate a road closure, that's now incorporated in the application process. So staff felt it was appropriate to strike it out of the fee ordinance.
And it's showing up in red at the moment because the strikeout didn't take, and it has a memo that you would hear from me, but you just heard from Jonathan. So it is to be struck.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Hi, Linda. I mean, there's three things on here I'm completely against, and I'll bring them up again. The Gulf of Mexico fishing fleet discount, you know, we got to expose that for what it is, a complete screw-up as a result of that marina audit. Basically, you paid $50,000 for taking the direction that's going to lead us to a loss of $110,000 of real money. So I think we need to talk about that. We need to expose that and not just cover this over with a fee, because, you know, we got some really bad press on that, and there's people walking around the city thinking that we lost $550,000 in the marina, and that's just not correct. We need to remove that alcohol management fee. The more I think about it, the more I get upset about it. We have no waiting list for events. Nobody's clamoring to hold an event here. In fact, we're starting to lose a lot of the existing ones we have every calendar year. What this fee does, it basically affects two groups. It affects the Old Salts and the Village Association for King of the Beach and for the King of the Beaches and the Johns Pass Seafood Festival. Okay, so instead of taking care of our signature event, we're charging them more with a completely made-up charge. It really is based on nothing. Okay, I think we should probably try to focus on trying to attract new events with new revenue streams instead of taking them away. It really needs to go away because we're going to scare people away. And the last one is the fitness center. We need to take that off of there. I mean, we're not ready to open up a fitness center. Now we have fees in here for a fitness center that we're ready to launch and all that. I mean, when somebody reads that in the budget, they're going to say, oh, can I go to the fitness center for $5 a day, or can I go for free? We don't have any insurance. We don't have anything ready to go. There's not even a plan in place. And it's not Jay's fault, but there's not really a plan in place. So we have fees, we have a schedule already. Those are the changes I'd like to make in order to pass it, though. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, we're glad that if people have issues, if we can get them all out on the table, we can talk about all those. If there's something specific that the commission wants to put in or out, or you want to take out, we'd recommend that be addressed individually. We can take it out and then adopt the rest of it, just so we can move forward with it.
You know, I guess with this, the ordinance and giving the fishing fleet 30 cents off on a gallon, and then giving our residents only 5 cents off on a gallon, this, to me, is just really confusing. You know, we should be taking care of our residents before we take care of someone else. That's who we're supposed to be watching out over. You know, and here, we're giving the Madeira Beach residents 5 cents off, but the fishing fleet for the Gulf of Mexico, we're giving 30 cents off. You know, what's wrong with this picture?
The marina operates as an enterprise fund, so the revenue that's generated from the marina operation sustains the entire marina operation. So originally, the first iteration of the fee ordinance never had, or there was never a discounted rate that was provided for residents, so we incorporated the 5 cents off per gallon. In addition to, it allows for, if a resident has CTO or has any, the stacking of discounts as well. So if the board wanted to up the increase for the resident, they can certainly do that. The 30 cents was for the purposes of addressing the deficiencies that were experienced, well, the lost revenue that was experienced associated when the board took a policy decision to remove the discount or not offer that discount. Because previously there was no authorization that was ever provided to staff to authorize those discounts. There was no legislative action, so we could not offer it. That's why you have the fee ordinance and the other fees that are now incorporated in ordinance to give staff the authorization to proceed forward.
Jonathan, was there an ordinance to authorize the 20 cent off per gallon?
The 20 cents for the...
That they currently are getting, was there an ordinance in place to authorize the 20 cent per gallon?
From the first fee ordinance, yes.
Okay, so there was, okay. Well, you know, here's the real dig on this, and you know, anybody that's been a business owner knows, just because you're going to lower the fuel rate, that doesn't mean all the customers are going to race back. In fact, it's kind of laughable. The company that's currently getting that revenue right now, because we lost it, is going to either match or lower their rate to keep the revenue. They don't. It just doesn't work that way. You can't. You know, you got to win back customers, and we screwed up. And I think we need to admit that, and then kind of go forward. And that's why I got a little problem with it. I mean, but I agree with John too. I mean, you know, let's be realistic. We're marking up our gas, what, 70, 80 cents a gallon. We can't, you know, bump up the discount for our residents. I mean, I don't know. I would think that would be a wise move too. I just, all across, I really don't like this.
I have a comment. I don't like the discount of the third. I like everything else about the new schedule, but I am still not in favor of that 30-cent discount being approved, only because I still think that we need to, we got 25 recommendations from Carr Ingram, and I think that they were valid. I think that you know, you don't just go out and spend money like that and not get valid stuff back. So I think the argument that, you know, that we're losing the money, that we're, you know, losing all this money right now, I think that we've got to get a handle. I think that we've got to listen to Hauser come back, I guess, and say, wait a minute, what are you doing about these recommendations? What have you done about them? I know none of it has specifically anything to do with that 30 cents. All I'm saying is I think that we need to have procedures It's not enough for me to feel that the marina can set up their own procedures for this 30-cent discount and get the proper documentation from fishing vessels, et cetera. Not that I don't trust them, that has nothing to do with it. It's just the proper documentation in place. So I would certainly feel much better if we recommended and approved the fee ordinance, you know, the schedule, but left off that 30 cents until we get a feel on what kind of reporting structure we need from these boats and the 30, you know, what the 30 cents entails.
Commissioner, the 30 cents a gallon, this is actual lost revenue, not the $550,000 of pretend lost revenue, of lost revenue opportunities. This is actual lost revenue at the pump. That's what's going on. So in essence, whether we have 25 different things that are supposed to be plugged in and they should be bringing us in more revenue, in essence, we paid $50,000, and the first thing that we really have any results back on financially, of that $50,000, we are losing $110,000 of revenue. That's a fact. That's not pie in the sky. That's not, hey, we should adjust it. That's a fact. So if we let it go another year, there's another 100. That's an interest payment on Walt's $15 million loan every month, right? So of all the things you want to pull out of there, we got to try to reinstate the revenue.
And I agree with that, Commissioner. I'm just saying that we wait until after we get Hauser's evaluation on it, too. We've got to have a system before we do it. That's, I think, where we got into trouble in a lot of places before on a lot of items. We didn't have a system, and we put something in force, and we said, go with it. And we lose money on it. I mean, it's not the only department that we've ever lost money on. We've lost fortunes on the rec department, et cetera. So I think that it's, I just feel that it's prudent to hold off on that. I don't think that the 30 cents a gallon, I think we've lost our customers, yes, and I do think that we do need to regain their trust. But I just don't think, I guess I just feel that should wait until after we have a better handle on those recommendations.
Okay, well, John Hauser has as much marina experience as the two guys that did our audit. And that's why we are where we are right now. We lost the guy that ran the marina, okay, that produced all of this revenue. Now, I know you were happy to see him go, if I'm quoting you correctly, but this is like real dollars and cents. This isn't make-believe stuff. This is real lost revenue. So our choice is, what are we going to do to get it back? And we don't have to wait for John Hauser to come in here and tell us how we're going to get back lost fuel revenue. I don't think that's his specialty. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. Nor was it the specialty of the two fellows that sat over here and read us an audit report of different things that were happening at the marina, which none of them, and by the way, you made an incorrect statement. We didn't lose money on that. And the rec center doesn't lose money. We didn't lose money. We're marking gas up 80 cents a gallon, right? And if we give them a 30 cents a gallon, we're still making 50 cents a gallon. Every gallon of gas that comes out of the marina has been profitable since day one. There is no refuting that. There's nobody that can come in here and say, these are factual issues. And the fact is, we paid 50 grand for an audit, and we're losing $110,000 because of the recommendation that was made. Thank you.
So where do we stand?
Take a motion, or you can take public comment before a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept 2019-06. We leave the 30 cents a gallon in, but we increase the residents from 5 cents to 20 cents per gallon.
Increase the discount.
Discount, I'm sorry.
Do we have a second?
Guess not.
Well, pending further discussion, I'll open this for public comment at this time.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. you know, you're going to have to work really, really hard to get those commercial fishermen back to the marina. I mean, really, really hard. They can get their fuel pumped directly out of the truck into their boats for a lot less than even the 30 cents per gallon. But you ran them off. It's going to be tough to get them back. That's very unfortunate for the city. The other part, the fee for the city of Madeira Beach, I think that part of that was them having the, part of this was city of Madeira Beach having a liquor license, or basically, is that part of it?
It was an alcohol management fee.
Yeah, we shouldn't be in alcohol management. The city should not be responsible. We should divorce ourselves from anything to do with alcohol and leave it to the people who distribute alcohol. I mean, we should not be doing that whatsoever. I mean, it's just very unfortunate. And, you know, John, you and I are about 99% different most of the time. But you stepped up to the plate for the, I got to say this, you stepped up to the plate for the Little League. I really appreciate that. The little bit for the city employees, I appreciate, or the city residents for the fuel, I appreciate that. But that's not going to make the 110 back. You know, you ran people off that were getting regular gas, and they're going down to Wawa and filling up their gas cans and filling their boats because you pissed them off. It's tough to get those people back. And like I said before, they probably will never come back until this commission changes. That's how upset they are with what the decisions that you guys made. It's terrible. And you ran off a person that they trusted. You didn't trust him, but they trusted him. And that was Dave Marsicano. So unfortunate for the city. Your decision, $110,000, is probably more than that when you look at it at the long run. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, on this fee schedule is very much tied to the general fund revenue and some things that I understand some of the debate on some issues, and I concur, the staff concurs with what Linda said. Staff would really like that if the commission had some problems with some of these issues, that you can take them off. There are some things in here that the auditor did give us that are corrections. One of them is a building surcharge. Another one are some of the rates that the auditor indicated that he saw in the rec center. So there aren't just revenue and financial consequences here. There are corrections to this fee schedule that need to happen. This does not pass tonight. We're probably looking at another 2 months to go back and have another attack at this. As far as lost revenue, and the general fund is real sensitive to me right now, in 1 week, by not having these increased parking passes, we lost $3,000. And the parking supervisor informed that to me the other day. And it's actually more than that probably right now. We've probably, over a period of time since June, we've probably lost anywhere, probably $6,000, $7,000. So right now, the general fund, in getting this fee schedule passed and projecting what FY 2020 is going to look like, that I'm going to present to you in another week, every dime and nickel is going to help. And so to not pass this fee schedule with eliminating some of the things that irritate you, I would just like to advise council or the commission to possibly take those things out that bug you and vote this thing for what it is, because I understand the marina, I understand some of the consequences there and some of the debate, but we're losing general fund revenue as well, and I just wanted the commission to realize that.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and we have talked about this so many times. And even the 30 cents that I'm questioning, I'm willing to bring it back at another time, okay? And to pass the fee ordinance as it has been written, not to, I know you didn't get a second to your motion, not to increase the resident, discount or anything else, to pass it as it is now, and come back with any problems that we have with individual fees at a future time. So I make the motion
Well,
to.
excuse me, sorry. We were still in the middle of the public comment.
Oh.
It was not closed yet.
Okay, sorry.
There's not many people left, but I still have to ask anybody else wish to speak. Public comment is now closed. You may proceed with your motion.
So I would like to make the motion to pass fee ordinance 2019-6 as written.
It didn't get a second.
Yeah. So the new motion is to pass ordinance 2019-06 as it sits before us now.
If we pass this in order to get the budget moving forward, I just want to get clarification. And, I've got some issues, Doug's got some issues.
Bring them back.
Debbie's got some issues. We can always bring those issues back to the workshop and make those changes by ordinances, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so then I will second the motion.
Yeah.
Will the city clerk please call? Oh, certainly.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you guys up front, if this alcohol management fee stays on here, I'm not voting on this. This is a new cost that we are putting in here that really has no business being in here. We do not have a backup of events that are begging to come to the city. You'll get my vote. I mean, I was going to compromise with John and say, look, I like the 30 cents and the 20 cents. If you knock off this alcohol management fee, I'm good to go. I just don't think we should be adding more fees that really have no meaning. And Mr. Preston is correct. We shouldn't be in the alcohol management business, man. That is not, and it still has the quote on the bottom that we thought we were going to remove. We still maintain the right of refusal to serve alcohol at an event if the organizer chooses not to do alcohol. That's dangerous, guys. I want the damn thing removed. I can't vote for this either way. And Walter, I'm sorry. I know we had a good conversation the other day about this. And, yeah, I mean, I like John's idea. I like giving the residents a little back. And I think honestly, that will increase revenue there. I think once the residents find out we have a 20-cent discount, I think they'll be more apt to go over to the marina and jump on that. So I'm good with the 30 cents. I'm good with the 20 cents for the residents. And I just need to get that alcohol management fee off of there. I can't move forward.
But Mr. Andrews, we're not approving the 30 cent or the 20 cent at this time. That's all going to have to come back in ordinances through the workshop, just to get this passed. Am I correct?
Yeah, I know, but we're just to pass it is.
So he can do the budget.
I understand, but he can do the budget. This is new. We have a budget right now, okay? And I'm sorry, Walt, I know this is important to you. We have this document in place right now, okay? There's different fees in it, and it is going to screw some things up. But I'm asking for one thing. I will bow to the other things that I don't like in here. I'm asking for one thing. I'll even let the fitness center thing stay in here, which I think is irrelevant and kind of silly too. But that's got to go. It's got to go, or else I'm not going to do it.
Madam
Director
Mayor,
Cortell.
the staff would need some clarification here, because the original motion was to approve the fee ordinance as it is, as it's presented before you, and that does include the amendments for the 30-cent discount, the way it's written, right? That's right, and I don't know that, I want to make sure that the second understood that. That includes all of the changes recommended before you vote.
Could you explain the alcohol fee better?
So yes, this was essentially put together. We were stuck in between two options. There was the, as it stands now, if they have an event, they apply for their alcohol permit. They serve alcohol at the event. They provide us insurance, and the city rents the fields out or rents the facility out that they utilize. So there's no, beyond the review of myself and the rest of staff, and then Linda as well, there's no really commitment city-wise. Discussion months back when we first brought this forward, I believe there was desire that we get involved in the collection of fees somehow through alcohol. It initially started with the rec staff was going to serve alcohol at all events for other people. And as the director of that department, as exciting as that may sound, we weren't interested in training staff to become bartenders and you know, because you serve a little bit too much or somebody drinks somewhere else and they say they came from here. There's just a lot of risk and liability attached with that. So this was essentially created with a mesh of everything under the direction of a previous board member. So I'm not, you know, we came to this point, it was something that we kind of felt comfortable with, but, you know, the more we've talked about it, it's just one of those, it's going to be a fee to collect a fee, essentially. You know, we can do a little bit more work to review the alcohol policies for these events. You know, we do a pretty thorough job as it is anyway, to make sure that they're following their, you know, they're getting their license, they're properly trained, they've got their insurance and all that stuff. But this was, again, it's just another fee to collect. It seems extra on top of something for whatever reason, so.
Jay, I just got one quick question. Will this help us attract more events, or will this push people away, this extra fee?
It certainly, to be totally honest, it certainly depends on the event. I can say that my assumption is with the folks that currently host events, there's going to be pushback. Not thrilled with the concept of the idea of having to do so. And since we haven't implemented it fully, I mean, we've thought through all these different circumstances and situations. Stuff that's like this, typically we see some random adverse effect for some random event that it's not intended for. And that then we'd have to come back and amend this anyway at another time. So it really, you know, it's a new thing. Like I said, I bounced around a lot of different cities and they had all different ways of doing it, and this is kind of where we landed in the middle. So, you know, just did so with the direction, and that's where we are.
Do we have a waiting list of events that are trying to?
Sorry, I completely, no, we don't.
Do we have a waiting list of events that are trying to come here?
We don't.
Okay.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody wish to amend that motion to include Commissioner Andrews' comments about the $1,000 alcohol fee? Well, no one's willing to amend that. We do have a motion on the floor and a second. We've had discussion. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein,
Accepted as passed, thank you, yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews.
No.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
No.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2019-14. Director Portal.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this item is here for second reading, but there will be some discussion because when we had it here for first reading, you had questions about it and asked that the Planning Commission Chair be present to explain their position on this. Let me give you a little background. We're trying, as you know, have been trying to clean up lots of things in the ordinances, and there are a lot of inconsistencies and problems and typos even that have occurred over the years.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
The clerk wanted us to read the last ordinance on the fee.
Oh, I see.
Do you want to go ahead and read it, Madam Clerk? You can read the header, the title of the one that just passed.
Ordinance 2019-06, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending ordinance 2018-03, the fees and collections procedures, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
And Madam Clerk, could you also read the ordinance that's now under consideration, the header, 2019-14?
Ordinance number 2019-14, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Article 4, Special Exception Uses, Section 110-124A, Standards and Requirements, to remove the duplicative quasi-judicial review by the local planning agency, and adding Section 110-125 to provide an appeals process, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
All right, we'll start from the history point. As I brought this back to you before, we were dealing with all of the responsibilities and the powers of the special magistrate. And one of the items is for special exceptions. The process that's required there appears to have been made duplicative over the years with different changes to the ordinance. Things came in, things went out as it changed from the Board of Adjustment to the special magistrate. At one point, some of this was handled entirely by the Planning Commission, and the powers kept getting shifted around. And we ended up with a process where the Planning Commission reviews as a quasi-judicial agency, but only makes a recommendation to the magistrate, who then holds a second quasi-judicial hearing. My concern was that, and I did consult with the land use attorney, was that it's not clear that it's an advisory recommendation, because it has to be, it reads more as a final decision-making. So it sets up a situation where when we get to the hearing, if the special magistrate comes to a conclusion different than the Planning Commission, you have a petitioner who either on one side or the issue or the other has an opportunity to state that it went through public quasi-judicial hearing and I have a different decision and take it to court. It just created more of a legal liability for the city. So my thought was, since this is already a zoning issue, the issues under special exception, or all of those items under special exceptions, are acceptable zoning as long as they meet very specific criteria, that it's really only necessary to go through one review. I recommended that that review be rested with the special magistrate, since it's always been in the, it's always referenced as a possible review option for the Board of Adjustment and then the special magistrate in the charter. However, that's not really required, because you can make a decision as to where you want that, what's in the best interest of the city and what the process should be. So this went to the commission, and the Planning Commission was concerned about removing the review from the realm of the civic review, the citizens review. They wanted still to have more public input and decision-making on that. Although they are trained to do quasi-judicial hearings, which is important. It's not a brand-new board, so they are able to operate within a set of parameters on quasi-judicial, so that is always appropriate for them. And their thought, we had a very small board. We had just barely a quorum that night. We were down a member, and both the chair and the vice chair were missing. So they decided that they just wanted to keep that portion of the ordinance intact. They wanted to make recommend all the changes that we made throughout the rest of the ordinances, but to keep that process the way it was intact, that it goes to the Planning Commission and then to the magistrate. That's entirely up to you. That's decision to make. You had asked that we have the chair from the Planning Commission here to explain their position and their concerns, and the chair, Mike Noble here, is going to make a statement.
Hello, hi, everybody. Yes, I was out of town when we had that work in Hurricane Michael disaster relief at Tyndall Air Force Base. So we had the Planning Commission was short a couple of people. Personally, my feeling is that it should stay with the Planning Commission and look at getting rid of the special magistrate. At least I would like to see this go back in front of my committee next month, and we can discuss it and then bring forward. So I would ask if we could continue this to have a full Planning Commission, have us discuss it, and then make our recommendation to you.
It's not unusual at all for the commission to refer things back to the Planning Commission for further recommendation, especially when there's been a turnover on the board. At that time, we were operating down one member and then had two members absent. So it might help for them to explain what their concerns were with all of them there and having a full discussion on the item.
Well, I like that the Planning Commission is made up of volunteers from the community, and I'd hate to see, the voice of the community cut out with these matters on these issues.
I'll make a motion to table this and let it go back to the Planning Commission before our review.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I do have a question, okay? And I bet y'all can answer it pretty quickly. What training, you mentioned training, or I think Director Portell did, does the Planning Commission, what special kind of training does the Planning Commission have that would make it advantageous to keep it,
Well, as long as they're acting advisory and don't have
Right.
final decision-making, they don't require specific training except in the process of quasi-judicial decision-making. As you'll recall, yes. And I trained them myself, and then we also had Ralph come and make presentation and then Julia's been working with them, and we're putting together yet more training because we have new members on, trying to keep everybody up to speed. It's really difficult for volunteers. Quite often in a big city, you would have criteria for what members would have to have as their backgrounds. So many of this or that or the other background, especially dealing with quasi-judicial issues. But in a small community, it's really important that the people that you bring in, you spend time explaining the complexities of making decisions based on a legal standard. They don't have the opportunity to decide whether a use is appropriate or not, only whether this particular application for special exception meets the criteria as it's described. And sometimes that's difficult for citizens to do because they have, more vested into it. So the staff is there. We have legal representation at the meetings to help in case there's any question about that. But they've done a good job of understanding those parameters based on the training that they've received.
When our top special training is that we are members of the community. And so we're out there, and a special magistrate may or may not be from this area. So that's why we like to keep it. We are an advisory board. We're volunteer our time. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
I commend you, Mike, because you were on the planning board when I was on the planning board.
Yes.
So you've been there a long time.
Yeah.
And I commend you for sticking with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've just got one thing to say, I've been on the board of commissioners for over 2 years. Not once have I've seen the written or a planning commission person come in and tell us why they did what they did. Not once. So I don't mind just going back to you, but I think from this point forward, you guys, somebody from that board needs to be coming to the meeting saying, this is why we decided this. You know, because all we're hearing is, oh, they recommended, or they didn't recommend. You know, we need to know why you recommend it or why you don't recommend something. I think either in writing or verbally, someone from your commission needs to be coming here and telling us that. And I think it's the same way with every one of our committees, our budget, our bid, our charter, whoever. They need to be coming and telling us, you know, how do we make a decision based on, oh, they recommend, but why do they recommend? They're not telling us this. So,
I couldn't agree more, and this is the first time I've been asked to come down here, and I'm here. So I would be more than willing and would love to come down and discuss where we're coming from on
if you're
some.
out of town, and I understand with your business, you're out of town.
Yes, sir.
If someone else from your board can come and explain why you made the decisions you made.
We have two
It's a great
vice,
idea.
we have two vice chairs.
Okay, so if one of them could come and tell us.
Quite often, that's not normal procedure, but certainly it's acceptable if you want to see that. But quite often, if they've just recommended approval based on what the staff has already prepared, there's not a whole lot of difference. And I try to put in, if they've voted on or approved of only part of it, I try to put that in the recommendation. But I think if he's willing to do that, and we've got two vice chair, I think both of them would be willing to do that, to fill in when necessary.
Well, I think you'd almost have to invite us back because for instance, yesterday our meeting consisted of typo changes to some of the ordinances. So if you'd like me to come down and say.
I'm saying, if,
Yes, I get.
The big pictures, I'm not worried
Yes, sir.
about typos.
Right.
Stuff like that, so.
I would think that, I would come down personally as the chairman, or the vice chair would be more than happy to, or even down to the second, if needed. Anytime that you would like us here, just ask and we can have someone here.
That's kind of what I'd like to see, because
I think it's a great idea.
Why you guys are making the decisions you're making, and we need to hear from the residents, that's why we have these committees out there. But all we're hearing is yay or nay, but not the reason why, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe that there was a motion to table.
Yeah, motion to send it back in a second.
Did we get a second? Oh, okay. Any more, public comment is open.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive. Boy, I really get lost in some of this. The planning commission is fine I believe, as long as it's an advisory. Because when you have community members involved in the final decision process, a lot of emotions get involved in that. And I think that's why the special magistrate should be the ultimate decision maker, because the emotions are taken out of the process. But, the planning board does have recommendations to the commission. I think that's good, but it's recommendations as an advisory. Thank you.
Public comment is now, if anybody else wish to speak, public comment is now closed. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthert?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, can we take a 5-minute break real quick?
Yes, we can take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at 8:30.
Thank you.
That'll be 6 minutes by that clock.
Let's relax. Pumpkin?
Meeting is reconvened at 8:34 PM. Next item is ordinance 2019-15. Will City Clerk please read it by title only?
Ordinance number 2019-15. Ordinance 2019-15, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Division 13, Adult Entertainment Establishments, Subdivision 3, variances to replace references to City Board of Adjustment with Special Magistrate, providing conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
Director Portel.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this is truly one of those Scrivener error changes. This is the section on adult entertainment establishments requires that they receive a variance, and that variance is to be heard by the special magistrate, except that it doesn't say that. It still says Board of Adjustment after all these years of not having a Board of Adjustment. This section of the code was never changed. So I just wanted to clean that up because we have to follow the ordinance procedures exactly, and we don't have a Board of Adjustment. So we wouldn't want any challenges should that arise. I don't have any indication it will be coming before you with any items, but we want to clean them up when we find them.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2019-15 as written.
Second?
Floor is open for public comment. Floor is closed. Any discussion? Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next is ordinance 2019-16. Will the City Clerk please read that by title only?
Ordinance number 2019-16, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Article 8, Special Magistrate, to correct grammar and provide more inclusive language throughout Section 2-501 and 2-503E to specify limits on the authority of the special magistrate as it relates to licensed and certified decisions, Section 2-503C, to expand the radius of notification, Section 2-503D1, to establish cost recovery fee for applicants' failure to attend, Section 2-503G, transferring clerical and administrative support from the Board of Commissioners to the City Manager in keeping with professional standards and practice and stating performance standards for the Special Magistrate, Section 2-506C, specifying the application of the Land Development Code and removing the duplicative quasi-judicial review of the local planning agency, Section 2-507B, strengthening the standard for review of variances to ensure full compliance with local standards, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, the clerk's going to want to kill me now, but this includes some of the same, one of the sections that is addressed by the item that you continued earlier, and so I'm recommending this be continued till such time as the Planning Commission comes back to you with the recommendation on the 2019-14, which there's a cross-reference on that duplicative quasi-judicial meeting.
Okay. The only thing I would like to do is see change from 300 feet to 500 feet.
Oh, okay.
Other municipalities such as Fort Myers Beach, they're using the 500 feet now and stuff like that. So I would like to see that change and when it goes to the Planning Commission.
I think that would be
So
an excellent idea.
if you would table it and give us the recommendation.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion that we table it and go back to the Planning Commission, but with the change of the 500 feet.
Do we have a second?
You gotta say, you just can't shake your head.
Okay, I thought we were looking just for consensus. Okay, second, I'll second it.
Floor is open for public comment. Floor is closed for public comment. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Douthert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes?
Mayor Black.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have contracts and agreements, and the first item and only item is the Snack Shack concession agreement. City Manager?
Madam Mayor, the item before you this evening is a extension and modification of the lease agreement between United Park Service and the City of Madeira Beach for a 2-year term with two-year option for renewal, two-year options for renewal. The only change that has happened in the agreement since the conversations we've had with the Board of Commissioners is the vendor has agreed to remit payment to the city of approximately $1,300 per month for the purposes of the city incurring the cost and responsibility of maintaining the restroom facilities. In the previous agreement, the vendor was responsible for that, but we believe that in order for them to be successful, if they focus on providing service to their patrons and we take on the responsibility of maintaining the restrooms, the number that was provided to us was directly from our contractual provider for the cost to provide custodial service, and the contract calls out that that money that the city receives is only exclusively to be utilized for the purposes of maintaining and keeping the restrooms cleanly. So at this time, staff stands prepared to answer any questions, and the vendor is in the room if the board has any questions, and staff recommends approval.
Who's cleaning the restrooms?
The city would, our contractual provider, the same company that does City Hall and our camp and John's Pass Park and that.
And how many times a day would they be cleaning it, or how often would they be cleaning it, or?
Sometimes they're out there, it all depends, and minimum, they're out there every day, but sometimes it may be twice a day and maybe 3 times a day, but I ask for the cost based on what the demand is, so they adjust their schedule accordingly, but that would be something that, you know, the vendor provided me, that number would cover the cost for maintaining.
So this is no additional cost to the city, that's all going right, this
That is-
$1,500 is just going right to the vendor then?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
I have a question, Mayor, or a question to the city manager. How many years has United Park Service been in the location, and how many increases have they seen on their rent? Have they always paid just $6,000 a month?
I believe that was the language that was in the first agreement that was originally executed.
Okay, and how
yeah.
long?
And I believe the first agreement was in 2014? I'm mistaken.
Oh, that would have been the 5 years ago, right.
Right.
Yes, was it ever discussed for an increase, a 4% increase, a 5% increase, inflationary, whatever?
We didn't recommend an increase to the existing contract because now the existing agreement calls for the custodial responsibilities that they're going to foot the full bill for that. As it stands right now, that they were responsible for the the cleaning of the restroom facilities. And in some cases, we would get phone calls and issues. So we thought that them deciding to pay that $1,300 a month was effectively an increase to their existing agreement. And since it's for a 2-year term, we didn't think it was appropriate to raise the existing rate because effectively the cost that they pay, the check that they send to the city is going to be $1,300 more a month than originally. But we will be, of course, passing those monies over to our custodial provider. So there was no desire to proffer a increase, especially considering the discussion that the board had with trying to keep the contract consistent with the previous contract because of the concerns that were expressed from another potential entity. So that is why we didn't go to increase, to put an escalator or those kind of things in the existing agreement. Because they could have easily come back and said that, you know, if you wanted a 4% increase or a 5% increase, we'll continue to maintain the restrooms at our cost. And I would assume that our cost is probably exponentially more than what they were paying to maintain the facilities. And plus, from a level of service perspective, we have a vested interest in those restrooms being stocked and cleaned and those types of things. So that was the rationale that we came to. That's correct.
I'll open it up for public comment on this item. Public comment is closed.
I'll make a motion to pass the Snack Shack concession agreement as written.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthert?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes?
Mayor Black?
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Next item is the Resolution 2019-12. Will the city clerk please read that by title only?
Resolution 2019-12, a resolution of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, establishing Sunday, December 8, 2019, Sunday, December 13, 2020, Sunday, December 12, 2021, Sunday, December 11, 2022, Sunday, December 10th, 2023, as the dates for the annual Florida Gulf Beaches Holiday Hapathon starting in Madeira Beach, adjacent to City Hall, south to Madeira Way, west to Gulf Boulevard, heading north in the northbound lanes of Gulf Boulevard to Indian Shores, allowing temporary road restrictions to be created between 6 o'clock a.m. and 9 o'clock a.m. to be field adjusted as necessary by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, authorizing the city manager to sign the Florida Department of Transportation applications provided by the race director for temporary closing of a state road, providing for reading by title only, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Director Hatch?
Good evening again. This is essentially, they've been hosting this race here since 2002. The past 2 5-year terms, the race director has essentially asked for this resolution that it just establishes the dates for him for the future 5 years. As far as the road closure goes, the city manager holds that authority as is, but this allows the commission to essentially direct the city manager, any future city manager, as well as the race director, that these are the dates for that race. And as far as the road closure, they do start here, right here in the City Hall lot. Facing Winn-Dixie, they take a left, so they go south on Municipal to Madeira Way. They take a right there, and then they take a right down Gulf Boulevard, and they leave town. So it says from 6 to 9 a.m. Last year, they were out of here by, I think, 7:30. And what they do is they have all their police, they have all their cones, everything's paid for, it doesn't even require any staff time. They essentially show up, they register, and they go. So by 9 a.m., the first shopper at Winn-Dixie doesn't even know that they were here. So basically, it's just a procedural thing that we do to allow them to get their planning well in advance for the next 5 years. And then I could show this resolution to the next city manager and have them prepared to sign off that is the directive intent of the board. So if you have any questions else beyond that, just let me know.
Can't believe it's been 5 years since we wrote the last one. One thing, Director Hatch, you just failed to mention, this race doesn't end here. So basically, they leave here and then they're gone. I mean, the race ends in
Largo Central Park.
Largo Central Park. So once they're gone, they're gone. They've got buses that come back here and drop people off that don't have cars, that have left their cars here. Little commotion in the morning, but it's been running really smoothly for a really long time. So this is just for them to be able to establish the dates and start working out with the police schedule and blocking down the roads and everything else. Cool event, though.
And clarification on road closure, it's just one lane. And the trucks that pick the cones up, pick them up, they go with the slowest runner and kind of sit on their tail the entire time picking up cones. So it's pretty effective and efficient, impressive operation.
It's a great event because they're so organized themselves. I mean, they always have been, it seems like. Yeah, I would, well, we're not ready to make a motion, maybe?
Sure, why not?
Well, let me open for public comment. Any public comment? Public comment's closed. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2019-12, Holiday Half-a-thon as written.
I'll second.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthert,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2019-13. Will the city clerk please read it by title only?
Ordinance number 2019-13. An ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the City of Madeira Beach personnel policies and procedures, providing for an effective date, severability, and ordinances or resolutions in conflict.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Human Resources Coordinator, Ms. Karen Paulson, and next to Ms. Paulson is Tom Gonzalez, the city's labor attorney.
Thank you. Commissioners, we have come to you for the first reading and approval of the Personnel Policies and Procedures Handbook that we've worked on for over a year. The Civil Service has worked diligently on going through it. We've gone back and forth with the attorneys and the city manager and I, and then back to the Civil Service again after that for their final approval, and staff is ready to answer any questions.
I'll start. We kind of got to get to the meat of this. This was scheduled as a workshop item. And since there were a lot of discrepancies, everybody on this dais agreed that it'd be great to have the Civil Service Board here to discuss the proposed changes. Okay? Now, we were told that they were invited to the last workshop, and they were. I talked to the chairman of that committee, and he said they were not invited. Now, they were invited this morning to this meeting, but this isn't a workshop. We shouldn't be hashing this out here. It needs to be tabled and to a workshop and let the Civil Service, give the Civil Service Commission adequate time to prepare and make arrangements to be here. And I'll just kind of pony off of what Commissioner Douthert said before to Mr. Noble. We need somebody from that commission that can tell us why they're recommending it.
We do have someone here from the Civil Service Commission.
Okay, we have one person here from the Civil Service Commission, and they weren't invited. I'm just pointing out the fact that they weren't invited to the last workshop.
Yes.
That's what I want to see. I want them at a workshop. I want to talk about these issues because I've got a lot of things here, and I don't think we want to go through them in a regular meeting that we need to go through before we approve this. We have a personnel policy in place so that we're not putting anything in danger. There's no worry about what's going on. But frankly, it is completely irresponsible for us to approve this, okay, knowing that these current rules haven't been followed. And I just think that if we table this, we move it forward, we have the Civil Service Commission here sitting in front of us, we'll know what's going on. And with all due respect to Ms. Heim, she's only been on the Civil Service Board for a couple of months. She kind of caught the tail end of this, right? I mean, Linda, right? Okay. So, not that she doesn't have expertise in it, but this goes back a long way where a lot of these things came up. And they've got to be discussed in an open forum where we can have the Civil Service Board here, just like John said, so we can hear from the residents on what they feel about this as an advisory commission. If it's good enough for the Budget Commission, if it's good enough for the Charter Commission, it's certainly good enough for the Civil Service Commission to be in front of us to discuss these items. Thank you.
Well,
Madam Mayor, I fully agree with that there should be more discussion about the manual, and that's fine. But just so we understand each other, as far as the budget's going forward, if this gets tabled and we're looking at another month or two, there's at least 8 people in here. There are corrections in here to correct things that are wrong. There are 8 people, starting in October, who didn't get the full 4%. They got a 3% because of because of a maxing issue. So there's some, and that's only one thing that's being corrected here. If this gets tabled, then the budget that you see, and from a timing standpoint, may get approved before this thing goes into effect, before this gets corrected. So there are things, I guess my point I'm trying to make is, there's things being corrected in here that have a tie to the budget and the way people are going to get paid effective October 1st.
Well, with all due respect, I don't want to be held hostage by the fact that we're going to rush because the budget's here. This is a very important item that we need to discuss. We are at risk right now. Every time we make a mistake in this handbook, we're at risk of another lawsuit. Okay, and I think that's more important than, and you know what, Walt, I'm glad you brought that up, that there's people that are maxed out at their above salary. We did a salary survey, okay? And, you know, everybody wants to be a hero and take care of the people that weren't making enough money. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I voted yes for it without even blinking an eye. But we also saw in that salary survey that we have people that are making too much money, okay? So I think that's a discussion for budget time, that, you know what, we shouldn't this shouldn't be on the taxpayers to go and keep supporting people that are over the limit. If we're gonna change it for the lower end people, well, good golly, we're gonna take a look and change it for the higher end people. We have a budget. This is, you know, I just find that we use the word budget so flippantly around here. Okay, it's a budget. We're supposed to adhere to it. Corporations use budgets. They don't, you know, just come out and just make budget adjustments just for the heck of it. There should be, you know, and this is gonna, you know, you guys are gonna find this out about me as we go forward. You know, I worked here. In order to make a budget amendment, boy, there better have been something catastrophic happened, or you better be blowing out your revenue number where you can cover it somewhere else. But I don't agree with this, and I don't agree with pushing this forward just because Walt's got a budget issue. Okay? I just don't agree with it. Nobody invited the Civil Service Commission to the meeting they were supposed to be at. Where did that slip through the cracks? So now we're supposed to just approve this because, oh, well, I guess we messed up. No, that's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Madam Mayor, if I may, and Human Resources Coordinator Paulson can answer the question with regards to the notification. The Civil Service Board worked on this policy. The Civil Service Board vetted this policy. The city attorney, the labor attorney, the city manager, the HR coordinator presented the modifications to the Civil Service Board, which they all approved. And per the ordinance and per the charter, we went through the exact process that it prescribes to get the document approved. We are here before you in another iteration for the purposes of getting the document approved. So if the board wishes to have a joint meeting with the Civil Service Board, you will only be rehashing all the things we have done with them over the past year. They've seen the document. There's members of the Civil Service Board that have reached out to me via email that have said, how come this document has not passed? And how come, is there anything else that we can do? There's obviously a member here tonight to talk about the nature of the conversations because they were present when we had the discussion. And if I'm not mistaken, the Civil Service Board approved the item unanimously. Then we brought it to the board and it was kicked back from the stance that, you know, the board wanted to have subsequent discussions with the Civil Service Board. We did exactly what we were supposed to do to bring it to a point where the board can consider it as a policy document.
Except for the fact that we all were in agreement that we wanted to discuss it with the Civil Service Board. Okay, you can tell me all day long that they approved it, they did this, you did everything right. I agree with John. We need to hear from, just like he said to Mike Noble 15 minutes ago, okay? I want to know from them why certain things aren't being followed and why, I mean, I'm not sure you want to get into this on your last night, Jonathan. Okay, we can try to pass anything you want, but the point is, we have not heard from the Civil Service Board. I have questions, and other people. I wasn't the only one that had questions. There are discrepancies between our charter and our employee handbook that are not being addressed, and it is grossly irresponsible for us to pass this knowing that these things aren't being followed. Okay, Can't say it anymore. We need to table this, and I would make a motion to table this discussion until we meet with the Civil Service Board.
I'll second the motion.
Floor is open for public comment. Floor is closed.
She's coming up.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you.
I was just going to say, I haven't, Linda Hine, 401 150th Avenue. I haven't been on it the whole time, that's true, but I've certainly listened to the discussion since. And there was agreement on the committee for the changes that we discussed. I'm sorry. Yes. Anyway, I don't know why others aren't here. I came here, stayed. Anyway, thank you.
Well, others aren't here because they weren't given any notice to come here. You were informed today about it, right?
Well, that's true.
Okay. That's why others aren't here. Okay. I would like them to be able to prepare adequately. I would like them to be able to come to the meeting, and we could have an intelligent conversation about this. I don't know. I understand about Walt's budget issue again, but I don't understand what the rush is to get this passed without having these questions answered and without starting to do things properly, okay? That's the worst part about this, guys. We've made mistakes, and guess what? Because nobody has been called out on it, the mistakes keep happening. Can't sit back and watch this. It's gone on too long.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment that I've got memos in this file back to December 2018 and even before, when the Civil Service Commission met with regards to this personnel policies, rules, and regulations, back as far as when I first got on the board. We've been talking about it, okay? The changes have been, there's been, I think I counted 20-something meetings between the Civil Service Commission, the labor attorney, and the HR people, at which these different items were discussed. So I'm perfectly ready to move forward. I think that any additional information should come before us after this ordinance 2019-13 has been passed. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
You know, I guess I don't understand. You know, I agree with Doug in the aspect that, you know, we need to ask that somebody from that to be here. There's Linda here right now. But were they given proper notice? But what Mr. Andrews keeps pointing out is things aren't being followed, and what are we doing about it? That's not part of this, you know. Part of this is, here's the policies. You know, it's not our job. I don't see it as our job. You know, if something's not being followed, to be involved in that. That's up to the city manager and the HR person, because then that becomes personnel issues. That is, and by charter, we're not supposed to be involved in personnel issues, you know. So, and you keep bringing it up, and unless I misunderstand what you're saying, Mr. Andrews, you know, you keep saying, well, these things aren't being followed, and why? That, you know, that's not the question here. The question is these the right policies? And, you know, then if they're not being followed, who do we look at? We look at the city manager, or we look at, you know, someone, the charter officer that answers to us, and why aren't these being followed? But it's not our job to get involved in the nitty-gritty. According to the charter, we're not supposed to be involved with the day-to-day management of the other employees, just a few charter officers. That's who we deal with.
I couldn't agree with you more, but the problem is, we don't have anything in place to monitor the city manager and the human resource department. We have to make these laws, but it's incumbent on us to make sure that these laws are followed. I mean, who's the judge and jury on that? Well, you're just going to give ultimate power to the city manager to be able to make judgment calls on everything else? He got an advisory opinion from the Civil Service Board and just tossed it away without even attending the meeting.
Once again, it's an advisory.
Exactly, but he had no factual law in order to back it. We need to be conscious of this stuff, okay? And that's the problem. We are just about to pass something knowing that it's not being followed. That's on us, John. If there's changes that need to be made so it makes it easier for the city manager to do his job, I'm all for it. But don't put something in front of me, okay, and say, hey, every employee needs a pre-termination hearing. And we don't even have a pre-termination policy. We've lost 90% of our staff in 2 years, and nobody even knows how to do a pre-termination hearing. We had a girl that was fired from the rec center, okay?
Madam Mayor, if I
Point
may,
of order. I
we
think you're
keep on
making
talking
unfounded
about, we
statements.
keep on
I'm
talking
just
about
discussing-
personnel-related items that are under the purview of the city manager. If the commissioner has questions with regards to the employment of any particular individual, he can set up a meeting at any time with the manager to discuss those. In addition to, it's always anecdotes and it's always half-truths and misstatements that continue to happen. How can you consistently say that you are well-versed in the personnel side when that's outside of your purview and responsibility, in addition to the employment issue that it is before the Civil Service Board next week is a situation that will then be provided a memorandum to the manager on their opinion. Then the other side of it is that we continue to talk about employees that have been displaced or have left the organization for multiple reasons. But the fact of the matter is the separation rate is not 90% over 2 years. It is 30% max over 1 year. So that number continues to be put out there, and that is grossly inaccurate, and some comments continue to be grossly inaccurate. And Commissioner, I ask that you please continue to stay within your responsibility as an elected official and not try to intervene in the day-to-day operations of the city.
You know, I think.
Thank you very much, and I ask the,
I think there's a motion on the floor, or no?
You know,
I want to call the question on the motion.
that's what I was going to do. I was going to call the question on the motion and ask for a vote.
I just have
She's
one
called the
comment.
question, we have to go forward.
In regards
Just
to
call for the vote.
oh, I'm sorry, say again, please.
She called the question, that means I have to ask the city clerk to call the roll. City clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Could you state the motion, Clara, so that everyone's clear about what they're
Yes.
voting on? I think it was a negative motion, a motion not to approve, correct?
To table
Yes,
the
it's a
discussion
motion
until
to
we get the
table it.
Civil Service Board in front of
So as
us.
a parliamentary procedure, if it's tabled, then there has to be a motion to remove it back from the table, which makes it very complicated. You may want to just make a motion not to approve or a motion to continue to a time and date certain.
Didn't we just table something a few minutes ago?
two things.
I believe if you table it, you're the one that has to pull it off the table or it forever gets lost. I'll have to check that, but
Yeah, but honestly, we just did that with the magistrate
the
issue.
motion is to table. You can take a vote on that.
Yeah, that's the motion, right? Okay.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
No.
Commissioner Weinstein,
No.
Mayor Black.
No.
Okay, well, let's keep discussing it then.
The motion failed 3-2.
Let's keep discussing it then.
2-3.
I was just called out because I'm outside of my purview and that everybody's been following the rules. So here's the question. Here's the question here. I already have one, thank you. Is Madeira Beach an at-will municipality?
Tom, since you're here, you want to try? I've addressed it a couple of times, but you're the labor attorney, so if you could address that question.
Yes, sir. The question is Madeira Beach an at-will municipality?
Yes.
I don't know what that means, Commissioner.
Do you have to be fired for cause in the city of Madeira Beach?
Oh, no, that's set forth in the charter, and it's pretty clearly in the charter that says that the city manager has the duty to appoint and, when deemed necessary for the good of the city, suspend or remove all city employees. So the charter says that the city manager has that power and has that power alone, and he or she may remove a city employee when deemed necessary for the good of the city. And that is the basis on which any employee can be removed.
All right, can you read the rest of that? As long as it doesn't interfere with, right?
I'm sorry?
With procedures, policies, or handbooks, or whatever it was in their personnel policies.
No, sir, it says appoint and when deemed necessary for the good of the city, suspend or remove all city employees and appointive administrative officers provided for under this charter that the city manager is empowered to appoint, except as otherwise provided by law, this charter contract or personnel rules adopted pursuant to this charter.
And so personnel rules don't apply there, is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry?
Personnel rules don't apply there?
Of course they apply.
Well, okay, well,
But
there's.
they don't, Mr. Commissioner, just so you're clear, they don't apply to change the word that says that the city manager can remove somebody when it's deemed in the good for the city.
Then why would they write that?
I'm sorry?
Why would they write that if it doesn't conflict with personnel policies?
Because the charter also puts forth the subjects for the personnel rules, which is set forth in 5.7 as to what they are, and what they say is the Civil Service Commission shall prepare personnel rules when concurred by the city manager. The rules shall be proposed to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, but the personnel rules clearly.
It goes back, Mr. Commissioner, it goes back to the city manager and the charter power which is expressed to remove those employees over which he has jurisdiction, which don't include the charter officials, but do include everybody else.
Okay. All right, well, did you get a copy of what I just handed out? At the September 10th, 2018 Civil Service Commission meeting, you are stated at the bottom of the page, Mr. Gonzalez has stated on the record that according to Madeira Beach City law, we are not an at-will city. Is that?
Correct. We are what the charter says, which is that it's not at will. It is when deemed necessary for the good of the city by the city manager.
That's running around the question. All right, well, let me ask you, I think you're running around the question there. It's either at will or not at will.
No,
at
sir,
will
no,
means you have to be fired for cause. At will means you can go in and out. So make a motion what, Ralph?
Do you have a motion that you want to make?
I already made my motion.
I
You
don't
guys
think
just
it's
do what you-
related to the personnel manual. I don't believe this is related to the personnel manual.
Completely related to the personnel manual. It's in the personnel manual, what we're talking about.
Do you want to make a motion to add that employees are at will or not at will? I'm not sure what you're asking here.
I'm asking that the rules be followed. We have not had.
We have the rules in front of you guys to adopt if that's what you want.
I still think we need to do what we initially did, what we were talking about in the beginning. We need to speak to the Civil Service Commission. John made a very good point earlier that we have these commissions for a reason. If we're not going to listen to them, no reason to have them. So.
We did listen to them by their changes.
Oh, stop, Maggie. He just said we needed him here. He just talked to Mike Noble right here in front of you.
Point of
and
order,
he just said the same thing.
Point of order, we do need to have a personnel rules. I think that the issue Commissioner Andrews is raising, he believes that although we have rules, we're not following them, which may be a valid debatable issue. What's in front of you now is amending the set of rules that you must follow in the future.
Correct.
So either adopt these rules or don't adopt these rules, or continue the matter until the Civil Service Board can review them once again. They have given you a recommendation to approve.
We've made the vote to approve. Is it possibly instructive for commissioners, since Commissioner Andrews is not in agreement, to make a separate appointment with the labor attorney and discuss it with him? I don't think it's appropriate.
What's in front of you right now is whether or not to approve these amendments to the rules. So do you want to adopt a new personnel manual as staff is recommending so that we can clear up a lot of issues and problems before the budget, so we have people's salaries in order, so vacation time and sick leave is all organized? Without these amendments, we are running on a very poor personnel policy manual that has not been amended in a long time in the correct way. So this is the city manager's last night here. This is a good time to adopt this new personnel policy and procedures and correct the mistakes that are in there and move forward. You can always bring this up again and add new policies and amend the new rules. It's important to staff that this be adopted.
This is first reading.
This is the first reading. So we can make changes as needed.
If this is first reading, you're just moving it on to second reading.
So we
have to get past first reading until we get to second
first
reading.
reading, then we can bring before we go for a second reading, then bring the.
There's certainly
Civil
enough time
Service.
for that to happen, yes.
Yes, and
That would be in August.
Can we bring them in on our other workshop that we have?
You can do that earlier before August, too.
Do that on our July workshop,
22nd.
and then we can do the second reading in August. That would be my recommendation. So I'd like to make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019-13 revised personnel policy on the first reading, pending that the Civil Service Commission is notified and to attend our July workshop.
I'll second that.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
All right, let me write this down.
Okay.
Yes, I have it. Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein?
No.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
God, so we're back to square one.
Motion carried 4-1.
Next item on the agenda is the contract for law enforcement services fiscal year 2020. Director Pierce.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this item is the law enforcement contract, services contract FY 2020, and Captain Liner from the Sheriff's Department's office presented the contract at the joint meeting with the Budget Review Committee on June 27th. And Captain Liner at the meeting did indicate some of the advantages that his agency provides over and above the contract, and went into specifically the duties and responsibilities of the two deputies assigned to the city. The FY 2020 contract is really an acceptable increase of 3.09%. Actually, it's a little low. Its increase is due to wage and health insurance. The cost increase is about a little over $39,000 for FY 20, and staff is recommending approval.
Any discussion from the board?
I'll make a motion that we pass the contract for law enforcement services for fiscal year 2020.
Second.
Floor is open for public comment. Floor is closed. Any more discussion? Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein? Yes. Mayor
Yes.
Black?
Yes. Next item are staff reports, and we have Director Hatch with the Spring King of the Beach, springing to receive.
Good evening once again. For some reason, I just noticed the memo that I provided. I kind of utilized the previous memo, and that memo got placed in there. But essentially, the conversation was after reevaluation of the Old Salt contract and the most previous event, we had completed all the terms on both sides. But I have the application here. The pro forma is included with all of their liability insurance and everything. But again, there was a memo and there was a checklist that was in there provided. So what I can do is just similar to what I was planning on doing here. I could send you guys the completed memorandum and staff report checklist for the finalization of this year's contract. Essentially, we were just waiting on the photos and the pro forma, and they completed that within the 60 days that they needed to do so. But anyway, the incorrect memorandum is in there, so I will get that to you guys as soon as possible and not waste any more time this evening. My apologies.
Thank you, Director Hatch. Next on the agenda, or last on the agenda actually, is reports and correspondence from the City Commission. Well, the only thing I would like to say is, first of all, thank you, Jonathan, for everything that you've done for our city, your leadership, your patience, and your support. And you certainly are going to be missed by many, and we wish you all the best and in your future as you move forward. Thank you. Anybody else have a report? The meeting is adjourned at 9:20.
Good luck, Jonathan.
Thank you.